Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Love is Blind wrap-up. I'm Mary, and I'm back this week to talk about drop number 2 from Love is Blind Season 4. That's episodes 6, 7, and 8. And of course, I'm here with my awesome co-host, Aysha Welch. Aysha, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Coming into this podcast, I was really thinking about it. And I'm like, we really need to boss up. We got to boss up so that people listen. Because if we
Oh,
don't boss up, people might think that we're grandmas.
maybe that's my problem. I just haven't been bossing up enough.
That's what it is. We don't want to be. We don't want the perception that we're grandmas. We're not grandmas yet.
Yeah.
So.
How did you feel about this drop compared to the first one? Are you still invested? Were you afraid that because I was afraid that because they had
Ooh.
front loaded like with such long episodes in the first 5 episodes, I was
Mm-hmm.
afraid that it was like they were doing that because they knew they didn't have much for the next one. But now that we've reached the hometown portion of the show, what were your thoughts?
Oh, I was very I was very excited for this drop, and I was so upset I couldn't watch it until after work. I was like, I need to focus, need to take notes. And so I had to stay off Twitter because
Oh yeah.
people were tweeting about it at 6 a.m. on Friday. So I was very excited heading into it. And then once we experienced it, 40-minute episodes. Nice. I felt like it was like nice and bite-sized. I guess, yeah, episode 8 was about an hour, but I was excited about that it was just going to be, I can knock it out. But I was really entertained. I loved the content. I felt like we really got to spend time with every couple. And
Mhm.
I feel like it puts us in a better place to kind of shape our thoughts about where we think they're headed. It's yeah, I really enjoyed this drop. What
I
about
did
you?
too. Yeah, I felt like we got enough continued intrigue without it feeling like, oh my gosh, every single couple is falling apart. Like, I think we
Yeah.
still have a couple we can root for. I do
Mhm.
feel like I need to consult our predictions because I'm not sure if okay, no, no,
I
no.
literally thought
We're
about
good.
them and I was like, I need to look at Mary's notepad.
Oh my gosh, I think I wrote this down wrong. I wrote both. Oh, no, this is right, because we were making predictions about people who weren't together. I'm like, "Why do I have Micah and Kwame written down?"
Oh
Because
yeah.
we were talking about that one.
Yeah.
Um, I think that there is one couple that we predicted would not be together that I think maybe actually is trending up, so that's surprising.
Oh, okay.
So, save that for predictions. Just
Okay.
give you a little tease at the beginning of the podcast. But before we jump in and talk about all the couples and everything that happened in this drop, I just want to remind everyone up front that you can find all of the Love is Blind, Ultimatum, Married at First Sight, and Perfect Match coverage over at robisawebsite.com/first sight feed. And you can subscribe and rate and review there if you're enjoying the show. I know that we get a lot of messages, especially on Twitter and YouTube, about how it seems like people are enjoying the show. So if you feel that way, but you haven't left a review, please go do that as well. Thank
Yeah,
you.
we would really, really appreciate it.
But also keep the tweets coming at us because I really like that.
Yeah.
It makes my day.
Yeah, I
Uh,
like that Mel had her tweet of thoughts for Asia and Mary, and then
yes,
proceeded to give us her thoughts.
yes, that was really nice. So where do we want to start? I feel like a lot of times I try to rank the couples in order of like, who are we kind of feeling best about to who has the most drama. So,
Hmm.
who are we feeling best about?
You know, I okay. This may be the
Oh,
hottest take out there,
this sounds like it already.
but this is we're feeling best about a certain couple, but there is another couple, in my opinion, and for like, based on my thoughts,
Uh huh.
that is fighting for their spot.
Okay.
So, but I still feel the best about Brett and Tiffany.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
and this is the notes I have here. Feel free to go out of order in these because I didn't necessarily move those around. But yeah, I was debating when I was coming up with this list. I'm like, there's another couple that's coming in strong. So we'll definitely
Yeah.
talk about it. Brett and Tiffany. I do really enjoy them, but I find it so interesting that I think with Lauren and Cameron, I'd have to go back and look at season 1. I feel like we got more content from them. Like, we just don't get almost anything from Brett and Tiffany. I have, like, a third of a page of notes on them and then, like, a page and a half on everybody else.
Right. Yeah, so obviously they're in such a good place that they leave that out, right? They don't want us to
Mhm.
see every conversation that they have is positive,
Right.
right? So they really just throw in anytime there seems like to be some ounce of conflict, or we can be in their in their mouths during a makeout session, because this is their favorite couple to zoom in, and it always goes 2 seconds too long for my taste, where we're watching them make out. It's like, cool, how sweet, great, and then it just keeps going. And like,
No,
y'all love Brett and Tiffany's physical chemistry.
what, speed are you watching on? Maybe I'm just watching faster, so it didn't
Oh
seem
yeah,
as
I'm
bad this
watching one
week.
time,
Yeah,
yeah.
I was doing 1.25, so
Okay.
there are certain shows where I can't listen to podcast on, like, 2 times speed for
Oh,
just
see, I
for
do.
people who are professional talkers, and I'm using that term, like, not technically, but people who podcast a lot, I feel like they, you know, they're talking the whole time. When it's a TV show where there's moments where people are just walking from, like, across the room, like Big Brother
Mhm.
especially, I love watching that on, like, 1.5 because I feel like it's still it's the right speed where you can still understand everything they're saying, but it just cuts out some of the, like like,
The
everybody
middle
feels very
stuff.
high energy. You turn it up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten myself to the point with podcasts that I'm about 2.5 consistently. The podcatcher I use is Overcast, and it can go up to 3 times speed. So certain people, I can go up to 3 times speed, but then certain people that say a lot of words, I have to kind of go down to maybe 1.5. So, but yeah, with shows, it's hit or miss. If I'm rewatching, I could go up to a 1.5.
Yeah, so maybe that was helpful this time because when I watched the first drop, it was on 1 time, so
Mhm.
maybe that's why I didn't notice it as much, but yeah, I like Brett and Tiffany a lot, but they're just, and maybe that's also why it sped by for me because I was watching it too fast. Um,
What do you feel that we're missing? Is it just what, like, we know they
like,
have chemistry, right? But I guess you wanna know more about them?
I think the thing is in because that's a good question, if it's a TV show and it's for entertainment purposes, why do I feel like I need more from the couple that isn't producing drama? And on a show like this, I like that we have at least one couple that's not just arguing all the time, or it's nice to have the couple you can go back to and be like, okay, just show me your happiness. i
Yeah.
think i think maybe in the past this couple has also been the one who has been the, like, go-to for the other people to, like, use as a sounding board.
Mhm.
So I feel like Alexa and Brennan are a great example of that. Like, they were the ones who, when there was drama with other people, they would be the ones who would kind of give advice. And so maybe, like, we could see them more in that role.
Yeah.
The other thing would be just i- like, we saw meeting her friends. What about any of their other family members? Maybe they're saving that for the next drop, but I just felt like maybe we could have just had a couple more scenes of them, a couple scenes of them discussing, like, actually where we're gonna live. Like, we saw his apartment, but we didn't see hers. Like, there was a couple things that maybe we could have just seen more of, but yeah, so
I
we
could
meet.
yeah,
Sorry.
I could see him seeing her apartment, and it's just like, "Wow, okay, nice."
Yeah, so maybe
And
there
then
just wasn't anything.
they're like, "Do we wanna spend 5 minutes on this scene of him positively reacting to her
True.
space?"
Fair, fair, fair.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we do meet a couple of her friends, who all seem very positive and very nice. She definitely has,
Yeah.
like, 1 or 2 dominant friends. I don't know if you noticed that, like, and by that, I
Mhm.
don't mean her main friends, I mean her friends who felt very comfortable speaking a lot on
Right.
TV. But when you compare this to some friends that we're going to meet later on, I
Yeah.
feel like this was definitely just kind of all happiness for the most part.
Yeah, I actually got a little, not choked up, but
Oh,
I thought it was just really sweet, just to see how. So first of all, he did a great job.
Oh,
He
yeah.
made a great first impression.
Snaps for Brett. Doing great.
Yes, for sure. That if you want to know how to perform in front of friends for the first time, that's how you do it. And so I think he did a great job because it's so easy that, like, especially now that people really know what Love Is Blind is,
Mhm.
because maybe seasons 1 and 2 people weren't as knowledgeable about the show, but now we have people saying, "Hey, how did it happen when the doors open?" Like people watch and they have this impression. They know, oh, y'all only dated for 10 days. How is this happening? And I think he did a great job conveying that he truly fell in love with her in the pods,
Mhm.
and her friends were convinced. And for her one friend to get so emotional, about how much they care for her, and they just like are so happy for her, and they just want someone who cares for her the way that they do. I was like, I think she found that because he's so attentive. He's so there for her. I don't think she
Mhm.
should ever have to, at least like leading up to the wedding, question if he is, his feelings for her. I
Right.
feel like he has done a great job validating those feelings for her, which can make her feel more secure in this relationship. So that's why, like, this was amazing to see him meet her friends, but I also wanted to see her meet his friends,
Yeah.
because friends are such a big representation of who you are, Micah. And so not that I would think that his friends would give us a different opinion, but we would at least learn more about Tiffany to see how,
Right.
she is a good match for him.
Yes, I agree. And I would say that while we have not met Brett's friends yet, the conversations he has with Marshall are a good sign of the kind of people he hangs out with, and, like,
Mhm.
the way he communicates with his peers. Um, yeah, so I think both, Brett did a great job in this scene, but also Tiffany's friends did a great job, because I think some people have a tendency, whether they're parents or friends on this show or any dating show, to feel like I've got to have my guard up so high, right? I've got to have like massive walls. I need to be protective. I need to let the person know, like, this is my daughter, this is my best friend. Like, I'm already putting you, at the highest level of questioning. And I think instead, if you go in thinking, I care about my friend or my, whatever family member. So I want to make sure they have the best, but I also want to get to know this person and put them a little bit at ease so they feel comfortable opening up. It's like you want to hype up your friend without being like telling the significant other, you're the worst, you already can't do right in my eyes. Because that's just
Right.
setting such a horrible like standard, like setting such a horrible precedent. I don't know, but
Yeah, I'm
I
so glad we have this scene to compare to
yes.
the Micah scene.
Yes, yes, it's very telling. So yeah, we meet her friends, and then we are going to see his apartment, and they do mention that she lives with a roommate, and so they're already kind of leaning towards his apartment to be the place that they would live when they move, if they
Mhm.
get married and move in together. That could also be a reason we don't see her apartment, because maybe her roommate didn't sign off and doesn't want people in their living space. Like, I'm not
Right.
exactly sure, how that works in terms of, um, getting permission, but,
Right. And they, if they go, the only true representation of her is her room,
right.
because the kitchen and the living room, that's all a shared space and a blend. So he's like, if he's thinking, wow, this style is different, it could be totally on her roommate.
Right, exactly. So, I'm looking up now, do you remember what Brett's job is?
Yeah, he's a like a director at Nike.
Oh, that's right, that's right. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, this makes more sense on the shoes then. Because, look, shoes, have a lot of shoes, that's awesome. I really love the fact that they're all in, like, little display boxes.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, have you is that like, I've just never seen that before, of like, it made me think, like, maybe I should get those, like, because then you could
Yeah.
just stack them. That would be so
Right.
nice.
I've definitely seen that for a lot of sneakerheads.
Okay, so maybe that's a
S
sneaker thing.
Yeah, for sure. I've seen it with a lot of, like, influencers who are
Ah,
sneakerheads, and then even on these shows, there's a guy on Married at First Sight this season who has his shoes set up the same way.
Okay.
And it's just that they just love sneakers so much and they want to protect them. Like
Yeah.
they're not gonna bend them. You know, if you were to get on one knee, he's not gonna bend the crease the front of the shoe. They're his babies.
And I feel like it's okay. This is like probably not the same thing, but it does make me think of people who buy um, like collectible figures and like keep them in the box, or even
Hmm.
people who have like Barbies that are like still like never unopened. But I was thinking like pop figures that they have like in their little boxes and they have them displayed. But so like if you have this is a genuine question. I'm going to sound so dumb
Hmm.
saying this. If you are a sneakerhead and you have your shoes in these boxes, do you still wear them? Or are they
Yes.
just for looks? Okay.
No, that's where you keep them. You may wear them once or twice every 6 months. But
Okay.
it's like, okay, I have these specific pair that I think would be perfect. So yeah, because it's hard. How would you cycle through that many
I
shoes
don't know. I
on
was
a regular
wondering. I was
basis?
like, "You got
I
at
s-
least 30. You got 1 per month or 1 per day every month. Like, that's nice."
right. I swear I wear the same 3 pairs of shoes
Yeah.
everywhere I go. So I definitely can't relate, but I can understand because I think they look cool.
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
I just never had a passion for shoes.
Yeah, I've never really had a passion for shoes either. I found 1 pair of shoes I really liked, and I bought, like, them in 5 different colors on,
Hmm.
eBay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I like that, and I like when she asks, like, "Okay, but what about my shoes? What do we do with them?" He's like, "We'll just get more boxes." Yeah, like that. Like,
Simple.
we just stack them up. We got a perfect solution right here. I'm like, "You know what? I like that. I appreciate that." I think
Yeah.
I think one thing about being an adult is because you always worry about closet space, but if you have your own place, then you can do things like put your desk in the living room or in another room. Like it doesn't need to be in your
Hmm.
bedroom. So your bedroom can be the place that's just for sleeping and clothes. And so it doesn't like you can have, yeah, all your shoes and boxes. You can get like a wardrobe. You don't even if you run out of closet space, you can find solutions for that. So I appreciated that. She does look around his apartment and this is when I can't remember if this was in the first drop, but she calls him bougie Brett a lot in this.
Hmm.
He's got a lot of like just sort of like nice I don't know, like
He has he
very
has like
organized.
a
He's very high tech. Like there's some
yeah.
interesting lighting, and he's like, "Oh, look at my paper towel dispenser."
Yeah, he has like a PlayStation. I was trying to peep it was a PS5, but based on the controllers, I think it was a PS4.
Okay,
And he has an
yeah, but this was
Oculus.
filmed like a year ago, probably.
Right, true, true. It was where it was very hard to still get PS5s. And so he also has an Oculus, which is that virtual
Hmm.
reality thing that is so cool. My cousin has one, and that's the only time I've ever played it. And then I was like, I want to get one myself, but I just feel weird doing it by myself at home when I can't make sure that I don't hit
Oh
something.
yeah, I need someone to like be my spotter.
Yeah, exactly. I need like a bodyguard. Hey, I mean, because they do create boundaries, but there's always that, if pepper or cinnamon come running out of nowhere.
Oh, true. I didn't even
So
think of that.
I'll save an Oculus for a later date. But yeah, I loved his apartment. I just felt like it was just the perfect adult bachelor pad because
Yeah,
I feel like Kwame's apartment is like a bachelor pad, the kind that you don't want to visit. But
yeah,
his is like, oh, I'd come over any day and hang out. Like you have plenty to do. It's clean. You have all of your favorite things around, and it's just, I think from his apartment, we learned that they both make a lot of money,
hmm,
right? And so they're both doing very well for themselves. And he is the type of person that like is hey, I have it, I'm going to use it. You like
right.
if I see something nice that I want, I'm going to spend it. So, I felt like we learned that about him, which explains the later conversation when they start
Right.
talking about money.
Yeah, and the other thing from the scene that I really liked was the compromise. Like, she's like, "I'm a little worried about space here, but I like the building, I like the location." And he's like, "Oh, that's fine. Then we'll just move into a 2 bedroom or a 3 bedroom, and this is the
Yeah,
same building." And I'm like, "Look at
easy.
these like adults having logical conversations.
This
Love
was
it."
such a mature conversation and just showed how easy compromise could be if both parties are willing because he could have easily he could have easily been so in love with his apartment. And he's just like, oh, okay, we can make it work. Or, we could squeeze you in here. And he's just like, oh,
Yeah.
if you like the building, like it's nothing. Like we can move into a bigger unit. And that is
Like,
totally the way to do it.
Asia, so we both recently bought houses. If you were on
Slight flex.
yeah, we bought some houses. Now, we do not live in Seattle, so we're not buying
Right.
houses at that
Exactly.
price. But like if you either went on a show like this or just met someone and started dating them, would you feel like, well, I bought this house, so I'm attached 100%, you must move in with me? Like what if they had a house? Like how would you enter this compromise?
Well, so for me, I've always thought, okay, if I meet someone who has a house, then I'm totally willing to make the compromise, like which places makes more sense for us
Right.
to live in. And I would obviously keep my house and just either rent it out
Mhm.
or Airbnb or something. Like basically make it passive income
Right.
because, that's definitely an option. I am not married to like this being my primary residence if it makes sense for the relationship that I'm in. What
Yeah.
about you?
It's same. Yeah, I was just
Okay.
like, like I feel like if they lived somewhere that I thought was like a not great location in town or something, we would probably discuss that. And I wouldn't even be past like the okay, or like and I'm talking like marriage here. If we're
Right.
getting married, I'd be like, or we get, yours, mine, and ours. We get a new place. We both
Right. Exactly. Yeah,
like
we both have
I
have a
I
place to
hate
manage.
I hate moving, and I feel like I've put a lot of work into my place, but
Mhm.
I think part of, like, saying that you wanna go from a single status to a couple status is recognizing that some things about your single life may change.
Exactly. And I will say like my house is a very I think it would be different if I were so passionate about like interior design. Like the
Mhm.
most I've done, if y'all are watching the YouTube version, the most I've done is try to select a paint color for my walls in here.
I
And
and by try to select, you mean you have not selected one, you have 3 pieces of paper on the wall of different colors.
exactly. These are the swatches that I ordered. And I was like, okay, well, we're going to figure this out. Which one do I want? You see clearly kind of like what I'm
I
going
like the
for.
I like the bottom one. That's my
Okay.
vote.
I
I
did
mean
really like that one. It felt nice, but then I really liked the terracotta in the middle. But I couldn't decide between those two. So
are
I
you
just
painting the
never
whole
chose one.
is it the whole thing or an accent wall?
It would be an accent wall because I was
Oh, okay.
thinking like this wall,
Because if it's
or a
if it's
wall in my
one wall,
room.
I like that middle one,
Hmm.
but if it was, like, the whole room, I think it's too dark to
Gotcha,
do
that
the whole
makes
thing,
sense. Yeah. Then I
but
thought about the work effort that goes into it and so I've
then you're like, "Do I
lit
wanna paint?"
yeah, exactly. I'm like, is painting overrated? So I've had those swatches on this wall, right there for the year that I've lived in this
Oh my gosh.
house.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I built a patio, which I was gonna try to, like, show on my camera, but I don't know that my arm bends that way to look out the window,
Yeah.
so you just have to take my word for
Oh,
it.
that's nice.
Yeah, and that was the only thing that immediately after doing that, because it felt like totally the right move at the time, and then immediately
Yeah.
after doing that, I was like, "Why did I put so much work into a house that, like, who knows how long I'll live in? Why did
Yeah.
I do this?"
Yeah,
Anyway,
it's like the future's unknown, but it's just like as long as it feels like as long as it feels like home,
yeah,
that's my main thing.
yeah. Basically, what I'm just trying to say here on this podcast is, me and Asia are totally down to compromise in life.
Exactly. If you learned anything from the past 5 minutes,
Yeah, that was the
we're
point.
both willing to compromise.
And, so we get let's see, we pretty much get 2 more scenes that are very small bites of the 2 of them talking about various things about, like, "Oh, our relationship, how would we do things in the future?" They have a discussion about money, and where she says that he, looking at his apartment, has expensive taste. I thought that this was it did not come across as a scene like with, is it Amber and Barnett? Is her
Amber and
name Amber?
Burnett,
Okay, oh my
yeah.
gosh. Where it was like, "Oh, you have, like, a lot of debt," or like, "Oh, like, how are we gonna handle that?" It seemed more like, "What are we gonna do in the future? How would our spending change? How would we handle, like, finances and that?" And it seemed very, like, like normal and realistic.
Yeah.
They had a really funny moment where he was talking about spending $1,200 on luggage, and she was like, "Brett, no, $1,200," and he's like, "It'll last," and she's like, "It better." I thought that was really funny.
Exactly. Yeah, at that price, I need it to last for 80 years.
Yeah.
But I thought this conversation was pretty straightforward until I was talking to my mom about it, and she had a different interpretation
Oh.
of how Tiffany was in this conversation, because of the point that Tiffany was making about, like, she's like, I know I don't like anybody telling me what to do with my money,
Hmm.
but I felt that she was saying that in, okay, I'm not trying to tell you what to do with your money. I'm just saying as a couple, we should be on like a similar page with our budgets.
Mhm.
And I feel like it's not a matter of living outside. Like, I don't think she thinks that Brett is living outside his means or anything like that, or that she would be. I think it's just that you have two people here who are pretty successful in their own careers, and she is more frugal than he is. And so I think all they have to do is find that balance.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never had those type of conversations with someone, so I don't know. I guess, like, with my parents, it at least I don't know everything about their finances, but it just kinda seemed like
Mhm.
they got married and it was like, "Okay, well, yours is mine and mine is yours, and we just kind of share everything, and they make all decisions together." I don't
Yeah.
know that either one of them has, like, "This is my money, this is your money," kind of
Yeah.
thing, but they also got married when they were, like, 22, so
Gotcha.
they
They
didn't have,
grew
like, a ton of
together.
money to begin with at that point, you know? So, it's a little different here when you're looking at, like, Tiffany and Brett are both in their mid-30s, so they have a
Yeah.
lot more sort of established income. Um, yeah, but my point is that nothing about this conversation, even with, like, the music and the editing, they didn't even
Yeah.
try to make us feel like, "Is this a big deal?" Like, no,
Yeah.
it didn't seem that way. Um
Yeah, I thought it was a very good conversation to have this early on because, especially that's why I feel like her seeing his apartment gave her a better idea of like his spending habits. And it was to be very appropriate spending habits for the lifestyle. Like, he was a single man. And if he continues to want to buy things like that, I feel like that's totally fine as long as y'all aren't uh not being able to pay bills, you know?
Right,
I don't think it should be, I think they just have to, find that balance because they were bringing bills as part of the conversation. It's like, okay, you be responsible for these bills. But yeah, if I'm paying for these bills and I'm also able to pay for the newest iPhone, like just pay it outright, then we could do that. I think they just need like transparency. And I think
right.
she's just not used to. I think another thing, she may not be used to being with somebody who is on her level, uh finances wise. Like, date, because maybe she's dated guys in the past where maybe they haven't had to talk about finances, but she sounds like pretty much like she's a boss. And so I don't know if she's has been dating guys on Brett's caliber
Mm.
before.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good thought. Maybe that's the case. Yeah, it's interesting, eh, that I'm trying to think, did we have a finance I don't think we really had a finance conversation with anyone else yet. Mostly it had to do with where everyone else was living, so not
Mhm.
a whole lot to compare it to.
Yeah.
Um, then they are also gonna have one more scene where they go on a walk, to a park, and they're kinda talking about wedding planning. He says he's not stressed or scared because he's so confident in their relationship. It's like, wow,
He's
that was
like,
so
"You're
nice.
not scared?"
Like, oh my gosh, I love this. Like, if Brett disappoints me, this is gonna be the biggest crushing blow. Like, if either one of them, I shouldn't just say Brett, if either one of them say no, I'm gonna be devastated because
You know what I just realized in this moment with you saying that? That I have 100% trust in Brett. Like,
okay,
there
yeah,
is no part of me that feels like he would do us wrong. I
yeah.
feel
I
like
mean,
he's all in.
it just seems like it would be just so like no one could be, that uh that
Amazing.
callous to be just like, well, oh no, yeah, yeah, but no one would be like, oh, I've got 100% faith in us, and then turn around and be like, psych.
Yeah, I
That
mean,
would be
we've
bad.
seen people make hyperbolic statements about how
Mhm.
they feel about a person and then decide, no, I'm good. But with Brett and Tiffany, it feels like he is right where he wants to be.
Mhm.
And I don't know what I think something catastrophic would have to happen in episodes 9 or 10 that would have to be a deal
Yes.
breaker for him. Because I'm trying to think. In that preview for next week, oh no, that was I was thinking, I was like, there was somebody with their family and it seemed disapproving, but that was Bliss and her family. So yeah, I think we've already seen him meet Tiffany's side of her, her people. And
Mhm.
so I don't know what could steer things in the wrong direction. The fact that we only have 2 episodes left, but I do have an unnecessary amount of trust in Brett. I just feel like I've never been more sure about someone's yes.
Yes,
But
I agree.
you're so right. There's a very real possibility. He could say no, she could say no, but
I don't think it's gonna happen, and I'm just gonna stay in that faith.
yeah.
But my brother lived in Seattle up until recently, and he wanted me to know, much like we got from you last season, a couple of these locations. So the location that they go to walk, which is called Cary Park, and that was what Tiffany said. This is my favorite place to go for a walk, and he said that he's been on walks there tons of times. He took my mom and my grandmother there on a walk when they
Oh.
visited. So he said it is beautiful and a good representation of beautiful places in the Seattle area. Um, and let's see, anything else about them? Any other scenes or other points you want to talk about?
No, I just felt really good about I felt like they had a solid 3 episodes. I felt like we were definitely going in the right direction. I don't feel like they had any hiccups
Mhm.
um along the way, and so I feel really good. I feel really good about them. They joked about both liking dark meat, which was funny.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that too.
Yeah. But the food he made, or if he made it, I don't know if it was takeout and he put it on a plate, but it was the steak and the Brussels sprouts. That looked so good. I'm a sucker for a
There's
good
a lot of
Brussels
cooking
sprout.
in this episode. A lot of
Yeah.
people showing off their skills, and I'm like, "Ooh, I need to watch more Food Network."
Right. And then she did mention that like her grandparents got married after knowing each other 6 weeks.
Yes.
Um,
So
so
there's
like it can be
precedent.
done.
Yes. Um,
But well,
all
continue
right.
to love them.
So, who should we talk about next?
Oh man. So yeah, this isn't the order of how great I feel about people, but more so what we're working with. So, let's just go ahead and talk about Kwame and Chelsea.
Okay, all right. Let's see. We see her apartment. It's very pink. I now I thought this was actually a really good conversation when he said basically like what's with all the pink, and she described, well, the previous person I was dating, I lived with them, and I felt like I couldn't have any control over decorating, and so this was kind of my first chance to like really express myself and feel like I have, the place that I feel like I could live in, which I really identify with. Like I really identify with like going through a breakup, moving out into your own place for the first time and feeling like, okay, even if this is temporary or whatever, like this is going to be my time to, try something out that's completely for myself and really about what I like and not trying to have any of that influence from somewhere else.
Yeah, I wondered if he expected such a deep answer because it seemed like he's just like, "What's with like? Is it just your favorite color?" Or, and it seemed more so like, "Oh, is this the vibe you would want for our place? This is just a lot of
Mm.
pink." Where it just had a very deep meaning for her. And I was so glad she got this opportunity to explain this because, for one, it allows us to get to know her a little bit better. And I really want to know if this resonated with him,
Mhm.
because even just I don't even know if he took much from it, because explains all this. She's like, "I still hope you want to marry me," and he does his laugh, which I just I feel like, especially directly talking about them after Brett and Tiffany, I feel like Brett always communicates back how he's feeling. And that's one thing we're lacking with Kwame
Mhm.
is how he's communicating and he's never reassuring her. And I just wonder how he's really feeling because that's one reason I feel like one reason why I feel like he is not into this is because it always feels like he's there. She's the one communicating, and he's like, not, I can't even say responding. It's just like accepting what she's saying. Uh huh. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it makes me wonder when you see things like this and you're like, "Chelsea, what has your dating situation been like that made you feel like like this is the person you wanna go for it with?" Like, why
Yeah.
because and I get it, if I was on a show like this, I feel like I would also want to try, especially if you've made that connection, but I
Mm-hmm.
feel like we see so little about what what their connection is. It
Yeah.
seems like she's kind of just been like, "Okay, this is my man, like, we're going moving forward." I'm like, "But what is it about him you like?"
But
Like,
why is that your man?
yeah, yeah, and and I'm sure that there are conversations like that and we just don't see them, but it feels like I feel like I'm missing something with their relationship. It does feel like she just sort of is like, "That's my person, done."
Mm-hmm.
Which is fine. You can just make a decision and stick with it, but, we definitely get a lot more about her thoughts, at least in terms of her commitment towards the relationship than we do with him.
Yeah.
Even though I feel like on a surface level on paper, if I was looking at the couple, I would say, well, she seems to kind of like she seems to be the one who's more uh
Committed.
compromise. Yeah, like she seems more committed, but I feel like he's giving her more reasons to want to not commit. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah.
it seems like we're seeing this from his perspective of like, is he gonna say yes to her? When really I feel like the question should be, is she gonna say yes to him? Like what is he giving
Mm-hmm.
her, for reassurance?
Yeah,
Um
it's almost like they need to have one of these. Now, this, I mean, and we'll get into it when we talk about them, but the Jackie and Marshall fight was
right.
just it was a lot. But it almost feels like they need to have one of these like
Actual
truthful
fights. Yeah.
moments. Like it doesn't have to be a super disrespectful fight like that, but it can be where she's like, you don't, what do you give me?
Right.
Like, when are you ever reassuring me? When are you ever showing me that this is what you want in this moment rather than, yeah, well, like, it's as if he thinks proposing to her was all that she needed. Like, that's me
Yeah.
choosing you, so I'm where I need to be. So,
I, and I like what you're saying about needing them to have a fight to get some of it out, because the sense that I'm getting just based on seeing the show before, this feels like someone who is deliberately not giving her a lot because he already plans to say no, and
mhm.
she's just not trying to have those conversations because she's hoping it won't go that way. Like
Right.
that's what it feels like. Um
Chelsea strikes me as someone who she would have been able to make it work with whoever she
right.
chose. Not that
Yeah.
she's, that easygoing, but she wants this. She wants to
Right.
be committed. She wants to settle down and she's willing to make the compromises needed to make that work. Um, but uh, uh coming from TikTok, Kwame was found. Did you see this? He
No.
okay, so
It's
he
never a good sign when we start talking about people on TikTok
I
though.
know. This man, mind you, this show was filmed in 2022, right?
Okay.
This man was at the audition process for Married at First Sight, season 10, that took place in DC. Someone had a picture or a video of him, like they were literally just watching season 10 and saw Kwame in the background coming in. It's like the first episode when you see like, oh, everybody who, has applied and has made it to the next step in the process before people get picked. So that season was shot in, I believe, 2019. So and it was in DC. And now this man lives in Portland, but applies to Love is Blind, where the end goal is a wedding. Applies to Love is Blind, which is in Seattle, which is a 3-hour drive from Portland. So it's like either he has wanted to be on TV for years, or he has just wanted to get married in the most unconventional way for 3 years.
I'm so confused because he doesn't seem like someone who's really committing to the process.
At all.
So I would lean more toward the TV side, but he also doesn't seem like someone who's like particularly hamming it up for the TV. Now, look, coming from someone who's applied to be on like every show under the sun, I understand, but I have a deep passion for each one of those shows. So it's,
So it's
but
different.
it's not because I just want to be on TV. It's because they seem like fun opportunities and I would commit fully to whichever one,
Yeah.
look, I'm never going to be on TV, so it doesn't really matter. But um I I feel like she seems like someone who's like, I want a relationship. And so I'm going to
Mhm.
try this new method. And he
Yeah.
seems like someone who's like just kind of going through the motions, which seems odd if it's either case, because especially with Married at First Sight, like I don't watch that show, but presumably marriage is like a word in the title there.
Yeah,
So
it's day 1. They literally meet the person that they are going to marry at the altar. They get married, and then the rest of the show is the 8 weeks together until they decide if they wanna stay married or get divorced.
wow.
So I'm like, because I mean, has he
Is
tried
that
out
like
for
an
other
annulment
reality?
period or something?
Well, it depends on where they got married. So I
Oh, okay.
remember I think it was the Charlotte season, they had to be married for a year because in Charlotte, or I guess maybe North Carolina, you can't, um like, there is no annulment. You have to be married for a
Ew.
year before you can get divorced.
Wow.
And so, yeah, all the couples that got divorced this season posted, like, long after, "Finally got divorced."
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, you just mentioned it, so we can talk about this a little out of order, but his apartment, which, like you said, very bachelor pad, very, it wasn't quite, who was the one? Was it
Cold,
Cole
yeah.
who had the like messy apartment? It's not that, I mean, like, there was some stuff in different places. There were some clothes in different places. Um, she seemed more like, "Oh, well, it's you, like, it's not that bad." Like, she seemed more, like, jokey about it rather than being, like, mad about it.
Yeah.
Um, so I thought that was interesting. You bring up I think the biggest point here is the fact that it's in Portland, and he was like and she's like, "Well, you work remotely and you live in Portland. I work not remotely and I live in Seattle. Also, this show takes place in Seattle. Like, you knew when you signed up for the Seattle season of Love is Blind that most likely the person you're meeting lives in Seattle. So, like, I'm not saying that he's completely wrong to say, would you be interested in Portland? But I think it's a little bit much for him to be like, wow, you won't just move to Portland.
Right.
Especially
Right.
because you work remotely. Look, I work remotely. I love my city. There are certain cities I would fight hard to not move to, but, like, you do work remotely. It's not like it would be
Right.
impossible for you. And I get it. He's like, "Well, I play soccer, like, 4 times a week here. I have a running trail." Yeah, I know. People get used to certain things in their single life, but the
Yeah,
point
and
of
that
marriage is that things might change, you know? Like, she's gonna ask him, like, I feel this is later, but she's gonna say, are you all in? Are you ready to settle down?" I hate that term "settle down" because it's like almost always the first thing you hear when people say, like, "Oh, are you ready to settle down, to have a family, to get married?" They're like, "Yes, but I would like to travel." She brings up a great point. You can travel with kids. Not only kids, you can travel while being married. Like, yes, it does complicate things. It makes it more, there's
there
more
just is,
steps.
and it's not even, yeah, it's not even complicated. Just there's more to consider because, yeah,
But
it's not just you.
but like I have friends, I have job, I have job.
I have job,
I
I
have
have
job, I
house.
have friends, I have house, I have things in my location that would make it, you know, annoying or there would be thoughts. I could not just instantly uproot myself. But if it's for marriage, you're gonna make some changes. Like, it's not about, like, being sad that your life is going to be uprooted. It's about, like, things are gonna change when you
Yeah.
get married. And if you don't want change, then you don't want marriage. Marriage is not, I'm gonna continue to live my single life and just have a little extra person here hanging out with me. I mean, maybe it
It
is for some people, but it's not like anyway.
it's so annoying because they kept talking about compromise, but it's also sacrifice.
Right.
And I think that he thinks that he's compromising, but he's not willing to make sacrifices, or he doesn't, or he's making these sacrifices but wants to make sure she's aware that this is really big, right? And
Mhm.
so for one, yeah, back to his apartment, it was the fact that he sleeps in his bed 12% of the time.
Okay,
And he's a 33-year-old.
yeah, but okay, look, I'm only 28, but, like, I probably only sleep in my bed 50% of the time.
50, that's good.
It's better.
It's
It's better.
better.
I've been trending upward. I've been sleeping in my bed more recently, but, like, my first
That's
couple of
good.
months, I was like, "Man, this couch is very comfortable, though."
See, my couch is optimal for napping, so I've trained my body
Ah,
to wake up after like an hour and a half. So
okay.
if I slept on the couch, I'd be waking up every hour and a half, 2 hours.
Sometimes I
But
sleep in my guest bed. Sometimes I sleep in my
I've never done
car.
that.
It just
Well,
depends on where I am. It
I
depends on
think
where I am when I'm tired. That's where it is.
I've
I have
never
slept
slept
in
in
this
this
I have
chair.
slept in this chair.
Oh
It's
my
not comfortable. Like, hold on. This is as far back, I'm only doing this because 'cause we're on video. Let me see how far back I can lean it. That's not
Whoa, that's
that's
pretty
not
far.
it's not far enough. I think I was too far away. It's not far enough back, and it's not particularly like, this is a very comfortable chair for podcasting or gaming, but it's
Yeah.
not a great sleeping chair. I've only fallen
Right.
asleep in it, like, twice, and usually I will then eventually wake up and move somewhere else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm definitely a person that I can fall asleep on the couch, but I will wake up and go to my bed.
Oh,
Um,
I did an improvement. I put a toothbrush in the bathroom downstairs and makeup remover wipes so that if I did fall asleep on the couch and woke up, even though the distance from the couch to the bathroom downstairs is very similar to the distance, upstairs to the bedroom,
mm.
um, but I would like, at least I feel better because 'cause I'm like, "Well, if I'm falling asleep on my couch, at least I've brushed my teeth and, like, gotten ready for bed, and I'll just go back to
You've
the
done
couch."
your nighttime routine downstairs.
Ugh.
Yeah, and I will say I probably haven't slept in my guest room because my guest room bed is my old bed.
It's
So
also my old bed, but it's very
so
comfortable. But it's a twin bed. Like, why am I sleeping on my old childhood twin bed instead of just going upstairs to the bed that I paid for?
yeah, that's
I don't
funny.
know, because it's a long
Uh,
walk, and I have a lot of clothes
yeah.
on my floor.
I mean, I love my bed, and there's nothing I look forward to more than going back to sleep when I wake up. I'm just like,
Mhm.
I cannot wait to get back here tonight.
Oh my
So I
gosh.
get so the fact that he sleeps on his couch, and I was like, okay, maybe it's a really comfortable couch, but it just looked like a regular couch.
Yeah,
But I
that's
was
fine.
just like, okay, that's a lot. And he just had like, I mean, she pointed out the towel
The
and the
lotion,
lotion, of course, jokingly, but
but
maybe not.
maybe not, yeah. Yeah, it was yeah, there was like, it was a pretty lighthearted scene until we get to the part where he calls his mom, who okay, so I just have to consult my list again. Kwame is how old? Kwame is
33.
33 and Chelsea is 31. Okay.
Hmm.
Two things. Number one, if you are a 33-year-old person who is dating a 31-year-old, and not marriage, kids are a thing that are on the table that you're talking about. If you don't want to have kids, whatever. But if you do want to have kids, you cannot be surprised with the quick turnaround to having kids because biology.
Hmm.
So that's one thing. Second thing, if you're a 33-year-old person and your parents feel so strongly about your relationship that they're like sort of sabotaging it, kind of a weird dynamic. Like, I think my mind has changed completely on these shows because I used to watch The Bachelor, and when they'd go to the hometown date and meet the parents, I was like, yeah, the correct response from the parents is like, what are you doing? This is weird. Why are you on The Bachelor? But I've kind of changed. I've changed my whole perspective because unless I like brought a prospective future husband home to my family and was like, look, this is a criminal mastermind that I'm dating or like a horrible person, then I would expect them to be like, Mary, what you doing? Like, maybe not. Like, I'm not in support of this. But if barring that, if their first impression is just meeting someone and they're just like, yeah, I don't know you, I don't think my parents would be like mad at me for
Mhm.
dating someone, even if it was a quick turnaround. They'd probably question me. They'd be like, "Okay, I'm gonna need you to explain this," and I certainly want to meet the person. It just seems odd to me. Like if you don't want to be on TV, that's fine. But
Mhm.
if you are like, I'm mad at you, 33-year-old person. I want to control your dating life. Isn't that a little
I
bit
think
like odd?
it's so there's another layer to it. He's Ghanaian, so he's originally from Ghana,
Okay.
and traditionally, African parents are a lot more stricter with their children. That comes like that stems from school and then to who they want them to marry. And so the fact that I think part of the issue here is Kwame is approaching this like, oh, I can just go to my parents like Micah did. You know,
Hmm.
Micah casually told her parents, they were cool with it. But Kwame knows how strict his mom is and decided to spring this on her as if, oh, it's going to be cool. It's going to be fine. No, you know that you know her. You know that she's not going to accept this in this way. So if you're going to do a show like Love is Blind, you have to take that into consideration. It's not like because Kwame did Love is Blind, his mom just needs to take a step back and be cool with it. She's always been that way, which is the way it is from a cultural standpoint.
Right.
And so for him to say, like, well, no, this is what I'm doing, let's try to merge the two. That's why it seems like such a drastic difference because it's like, oh wait, why is she not just cool with this? Love is blind. That Kwame's doing what he wants to do. She's also coming from knowing that he applied for Married at First Sight 3 years ago.
And
So I feel like there's way more to
yes.
that dynamic than just support your child.
So okay, and I want to be clear because I feel like I was not saying exactly what I was thinking before. I don't want to be insensitive to different cultures or even just different people who like wouldn't support their child going on a TV show
Hmm.
for dating. I'm very aware that there's lots of people in the world who would feel that way, and that's completely fine.
Hmm.
What I am saying is if you are a parent who knows that your child is going on one of these TV shows, and it's like either you would have told them, I don't support this, in which case the child should not then expect your support because
Yeah.
you've already been told, which seems kind of more of this scenario. But if you have told your child that you're okay with them going on the show, then you as the parent should not be surprised when they then continue with the process of the show. And it seems a little
Hmm.
weird to be like, because I think the way I had interpreted it when I first saw it was like she was aware he went on the show, but then was mad at him for like bringing someone home, for like having success on the show. I think that was the way I interpreted it, where I was confused about that. But
Yeah, I
yeah,
think
if
it's
you're
the first situation you explained. Like, she didn't approve of him going on the show anyway, but he was like, "This is what I'm gonna do." And then once
right,
he
and then just
explains,
hoped
like,
it would
"Hey, I
change.
actually did go on the show and actually did ask for someone's hand in marriage," and it shows us how much she disapproves by the fact that we did not hear her.
Right,
She did not sign off on being on this show.
right,
We are not going to hear her. We are not going to see her
right.
because Kwame's mom does not approve.
Yes.
Uh, so
But it seems like this is an issue between Kwame and his mom. This has nothing to do with Chelsea. Like, it could be any
yeah.
person,
Mhm.
and it seems like it has because in the past, we've had scenarios where it was like, possibly the family did not like the pick, and that was why
Yeah.
they weren't supportive. This seems a lot more like something between Kwame and his mom of it just seems odd because the way that he framed it on the show was like well, but I'm so close with her and I really want her support and approval. If that's what you want
Mhm.
and you know you're not going to get it from this format, don't do this because it does seem like it would be the kind of thing that I could see in a few episodes him using it as an excuse to not get married. Of oh well,
Yeah,
my mom doesn't approve. It's like, but that she was never going to approve. So
exactly.
yeah, and I think what I was trying to say about the like the feeling weird about someone, like, wanting to control their adult child's relationship was more like if you're barring a circumstance where you're not going to approve them going on a TV show, if that's the case, then that's the case. But if you're just sort of
Mhm.
like, you've got sort of a kind of, standard relationship with your child, obviously you care about them, um, it's not like they're a teenager where you're going to be a lot more concerned about their dating. It seems like probably in a lot of these cases, parents would be like, "Oh, I really want my child to get married when they're in their 30s or however old." So you would think that
Mhm.
they would be a little more like, at the very least, wanting to kind of go in with open, open opinions.
Yeah.
But this is, yeah, this seems kind of like a special or not, it's a particular circumstance where his mom does not approve of the whole scenario. So,
Yeah, and I think it was just that, like, he he was willing to do this whether his mom approved or not,
right,
because had so let's say with Chelsea, he may very well use that as a reason to not marry her, and that's just because I believe he's just not that into Chelsea. But had it been Micah, different scenario, someone he can't stop obsessing about, someone who's always going to have his heart. If it had been Micah that he had chosen, that wouldn't have been a factor. He would have been like, whether my mom approves or not, this is for me. This is what I want to do. And so it's funny that we didn't get all of this preparation, like this, like, okay, wait, we got to make sure this goes right. For Kwame's mom, it just kind of happened in that phone call. But then with Chelsea's dad, Mr. Charlie, she prepped him. She was just like, we gotta, he is, he's hard. And I was I started to become nervous. And Charlie was the most easygoing guy.
he was so adorable when he showed up and he sits down, he's meeting her, whatever, and then she's like, "Oh, we got engaged." And he like starts tearing up and like immediately gets up and hugs them and is like, "Oh, I'm
Mm-hmm.
so excited for this." Like, here's the thing. I think that there are probably lots of parents, I think Micah's parents might be one of those, who are going to maybe seem a little more approving on the show than they necessarily would be because they don't want to,
Mm-hmm.
you know, really express their real opinions on a TV show. And that's
Yeah.
completely fine. I think it's fine if we're getting sort of a sugar-coated version. But it was funny that she was like, "Yeah, he's never approved of anyone before." And then just like immediate, everything is
Immediately
fine.
approves before she finishes asking, pretty much.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, we were worried for nothing here. Like, he
Yeah.
was all about this.
So he was cute. I liked that. I thought that was another sweet scene. Um, and then, yeah, we have a couple more conversations with them, mostly about things we've touched on: kids, travel, her dog, stuff like that. Anything from any of the other scenes that you wanted to call out in particular?
I just felt like I'm glad he at least likes her dog. I will
Yes.
say that him and Rocky seem like they have a great relationship, and I'm glad that that's on solid ground. That's at least we have that.
Right.
But I'm just concerned with little moments that make it seem like it's going to always be this way no matter what. Like the scene about cleaning when he's saying, "Oh, like, okay, at least by the time we go to bed it'll be in the sink." And she's like, I would at least like them in the dishwasher 90% of the time. And then he's like 80. And then looks at her like, okay, what are you gonna say to that? I'm saying 80. So, and it's just like it's annoying because it's like, okay, maybe he was joking in that moment, but I think he also, we've heard him explain, he thinks he's the one that's doing most of the compromising. And for some reason, he's feeling like anytime Chelsea wants something a certain way, he's the one having to give in that situation rather than just like, you're now in a relationship. Everything is not going to be on your terms. And so just, I think he's going to continue to find excuses to have points of conflict with Chelsea.
Yeah, and this is one of the few scenes I was actually sort of, I don't know about, I would say on his side, but understanding of him was, I do think he is right in that so far it seems like she's asking him to compromise on everything, and we just haven't seen from her saying, "Oh, but I'm willing to give this," right? Like, cleaning is a very it's always a thing that we hear about on this show in particular of like what the expectations are and whatever. And I kind of see, like, I feel like there's a baseline of like, look, because there's people in the world who are like, well, if one person wants it more clean, then they should just do the cleaning because they're the one who
Mhm.
wants it that way. It's like, yeah, but like the point is that you should be trying to, you know, work with both, things. I did understand what he was saying about the sink though, because I'm like, for me, I would rather have all my dishes. Like, I do think the sink is better than the counter. Like, I do feel like if the options were, do we leave everything on the counter and we're really tired, or can we at least like rinse them off and put them in the sink and stack them up, and then like tomorrow put them in the dishwasher. Like, I do feel like that was, I think he was initially saying it to be like, oh, well, like I may not be perfect, but like I'll make sure they at least get in the sink. And she was like,
Mhm.
I don't like the sink. It's like, oh, wrong answer. But I feel like he was trying
Mhm.
to give the right answer, kind of. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I just I don't know. I just think that I don't know if he's trying to make compromise an issue where it doesn't need to be.
It probably. I mean, if you really cared about the other person and your priority was making the relationship work, people would be completely happy compromising. We saw that
Yeah.
from Brennan last season. It's like
Yeah.
100% everything. He was like, "Yep, I'll just do it. I'll just compromise."
Yeah,
And
he over compromised.
right. And I don't think you should necessarily be completely down to change everything about yourself. But
Mhm.
I think that yeah, the truth of the matter is if you're if you're all in on the relationship, you're not going to be worried about the fact that you might have to compromise, which is
Yeah,
what we see
exactly.
with Brett and Tiffany. Um,
But I will
yeah.
say, back to your earlier point about the kids and their ages, I will say yes. If you're that age and someone, like, I see it on Married at First Sight all the time. They're like, I want kids in the next year. And sometimes that's a lot for the other person. A year could be. Chelsea is asking for 3 to 4 years. I
Yeah.
feel like that is not a difficult ask.
No, it's not.
4 years, like, y'all, that is plenty of time to enjoy each other, quote unquote, and travel and really spend quality time with each other. And he seems to have an issue with 3 to 4 years. He's like, yeah, but I really like, her stance is 3 to 4 years, and it's not like, great, that would be a perfect amount of time for us to really, enjoy each other. At that point, she'll be 35, 36. I just don't think it's an unfair ask.
It's not, and it's look, this is not like new information, but if you're a man who's in your 30s and you think you might want kids someday, you either need to understand that if you're dating someone who's near your age, it's going to be soonish, or you're going to need to date someone a lot younger
Mhm.
in order to get the cushion of time that you want to live, a particular, kid-free life. And I just think it's like they're always shocked when women are like, it's not like women are, or it's not like the people who are carrying the child are saying something irrational, like, "Oh, no, I just really wanna have children, like, right now." Like, that's the thing. It's like there is a reason they need to have kids by a certain age. They don't have the luxury of just being like,
Yeah.
"I'll just wait forever." Like,
Mhm.
you know, it's always interesting to me when I see that because, like, I will never understand the people who are 35 that I will see on the dating apps that say, looking like, want to be married, want to have kids someday, but I'm looking for something casual right now.
Yeah,
When are you
that's
gonna look
that's
for
why
the
I'm
serious, like,
hesitant to have my
what?
my top age is 37 because I
Oh
see
my
that.
gosh. I know, it's anyway, I know,
But
and you would think, because I was always told, my mom was always like, "Well, maybe you need to date some people a couple years earlier because 'cause they'll already have gotten that, like, need to be single, need to travel scenario out of their life." Like, they've already done that
Mhm.
phase. I'm like, "Well, that
Yeah,
stinks."
exactly.
Yeah. Anyway,
Um,
like I said, none of this is new information, but
we did see, at Chelsea's birthday party,
oh
Kwame and
gosh.
Micah
Yeah.
question their relationships again. Um, Micah gave way too much reassurance to Kwame about how she feels, how she still thinks about him, how she still cares the same about him, and all this did, I think, is make Kwame continue to press in on his what he said is that he still like Micah will always have a place in his heart. He still loves her. And I feel like we in this one little section of him talking to Micah, we got way more reassurance than he gave Chelsea in 3 episodes.
I was so up and down on Micah this whole episode, and we'll talk about them in a second. But I talked in the first drop. I do not think it is appropriate if you have dated someone or are in a situation where you feel like you could date someone in the future who's in a relationship, it's not appropriate to tell them, "I'm always here for you. I'll always be here for you. You have my heart." That's not an appropriate friend thing to say, because what you're actually saying is, I can be your, like,
Shoulder to lean on.
yeah, like, anyway. So
And
I
in
was
this
mad about that.
situation, it's not just a friend, it's her ex.
Right. So I would say best case scenario for Micah, like, or not best case scenario, but like the best credit I could give her in this is that she feels really bad for having crushed his heart. And
Mhm.
she's still sort of trying to make up for that. So she's still sort of trying to be like, "Look, I just want to reassure you the fact that I did care about you. It wasn't like I was lying. It wasn't like that's sort of like best case scenario. Worst is that she is just trying to string him along for some reason. Like, there was a lot of things she did in this batch of episodes that, like, actually really improved my opinion of her. But then when we got back to this, I'm like, "You're just kind of being a hypocrite." Like, you're
Mhm.
just being a hypocrite. If you care, clearly you care about, like, what is appropriate for people to do towards engaged couples. You're not
Mhm.
reciprocating that care towards Chelsea. And you're not showing that respect. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe this was just for TV. Maybe they had to cut around a massive conversation where she was telling him, I really have confidence in me and Paul, but I just really want to let you know that that nothing was fake, and I care about you as a person." If that was really it, then like that seems kind of okay. That seems a little passable. I would say, like, you could learn from your fiance that maybe it's just best not to even have these conversations, but whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
I
yeah,
feel
I
like
don't know.
it just made Kwame feel better. Um, and the fact that he didn't directly, and this could have been editing, directly answer. She's like, "Do you why are you asking me? Am I questioning? Are you questioning?" And the fact that he's like, like, don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't like at this point. And someone on Twitter had pointed that out that Chelsea seems like such a sweet person. Why is Kwame being so disrespectful constantly? And I think it's because he is being completely selfish in this situation and only considering his feelings and not thinking of the repercussions of there is somebody else in this relationship who came into this for the same, well, I would hope that he came into these for the same reasons that Chelsea did,
Mhm.
but he's not considering how that's going to impact her. Like, as she grows and she's developing these feelings for him, and he's doing just enough for her to continue to feel this way and to grow a little bit more and more. And then when the wedding day comes and he's like, no, I mean, and he's going to try to explain it away as if like she should have known this was not for him because of his mom or because of his love for Portland. And so I'm really nervous for Chelsea.
Yeah, I'm nervous for her. I think all of these scenes are just here so that when, he says no at the altar, he's just trying to add reasons and
Yeah,
add background to that. So,
exactly. And the person on Twitter
yeah.
was Roya Swanson, so shout out to them.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah. All right. So who do we have next?
yeah, so let's go ahead and knock out Paul and Micah.
Okay. All right. So we do get the whole sum up of the Irina situation from the previous batch where Micah was bothered by Irina telling her that she was attracted to Paul. And it sounds like she also, um, well, Paul tells her like, yeah, she was being a little touchy feely, which we see a scene of where she's like touching his foot while she was in the pool. Like Irina's touching Paul's foot.
Yeah, it was so inappropriate.
What I really liked, again, like I said, I'm up and down on Micah. Here's what I liked for Micah in this scene. I like that she is talking very like calmly and logically about all of this. Like she's like, I need to know, is this a thing, Paul, that you like feel like you regretted not pursuing? Like I need to know 100% right here. And then whatever you tell me, I will believe. And this will become a problem between me and Irina. Like not blaming him for Irina hitting on him.
Yeah.
And understanding that. It makes me feel like the reason that she can recognize this made me feel like, okay, she really truly must not have any feelings for Kwame at all, because I think if she did, it would be difficult to be this hypocritical.
Mm.
um,
Mm.
but but Paul says he's very secure in his relationship with Micah, doesn't have any feelings for Irina, has no desire to like meet up with Irina now.
Yeah.
So
I thought that Paul handled this well. I felt like he reassured her. The only thing that was kind of like that, if I were Micah, I would just be like, because he's like, well, actually, she was a little, because in Micah's mind, she would think that Paul should have brought that up, but he explained it as it was so irrelevant to him,
right.
because he's so solid about them. So I thought, that was enough in that moment to reassure her.
I
And
also think it's something where like if he had immediately told her like that night or something like, oh my gosh, like she was hitting on me, you'd have to say it in a very particular way to not make it sound like you're like almost like bragging. I don't like I could see some guys who are not interested in someone but like wanting to say it basically in a way of being like, yeah, you better be happy that you got this because other
mhm.
people are hitting on me too.
Artiste.
Yeah.
Mhm.
um that kind of thing. Also, he might have thought like it was weird because we've been shown that like Micah and Irina are supposed to be like really close friends on the show. So maybe he thought like, oh, this might be an awkward thing to bring up because I
Yeah.
don't want to like hurt their friendship. I don't know.
Mhm. Yeah. And so I'm glad it came up, and I'm glad that Micah approached it this way, and because yeah, he's the one she's in a relationship with
Hmm.
right now. So he's the one she should bring it up to, but the fact that Irina thinks that they're so close, and that they're like, she considers her best friend. I felt like she handled this in the correct order, because I'm like,
Yes.
first of all, why would Irina bring that up before they left Mexico? Like,
I
and
think because Irina thinks that this is just like a fun show that she's
thinks
on.
she's
Like, I
on
don't
Love Island.
like I think that she had no actual desire to meet someone and get married to them. So she's like shocked that her friend is. And
Hmm.
so she thought like, "Oh my gosh, this is so funny, like just the two of us like messing with all these boys."
Yeah.
So, yeah. So then Micah does go talk to Irina and um yeah, I do say this is like ironic because she was doing the same thing to Chelsea. Like she was literally touching Kwame so much by the
Yeah.
pool
She said,
too.
but I'm best friends with Irina. I don't claim to be best friends with Chelsea, so it's
So
okay."
yeah, it's like I think it's either that she was more upset with like the friend thing, or that she truly just does not actually like Kwame, and therefore like she's more upset with the fact that Irina could like Paul, I guess.
Mhm.
I don't know. She's pretty like very direct and harsh in these conversations. She's just like tells her like, yeah, Paul's not even interested in you. And
Yeah.
like this is
Well,
like
rightfully so, because Irina, why are you asking, does Paul want to talk to you? Has Paul wanted to communicate with you? It was just like, I don't understand how Micah didn't continue to go off on her after that, but I appreciated the passion from
yeah.
Micah and just getting it out, because Irina, Paul is not thinking about you.
The fact that Irina was not invited to Chelsea's birthday party when like so many other people were. Like you would think if the producers have control over this, they want Irina to be there. The fact that she's not made me think that like Micah is just done. Like not even doesn't even want to be friends with her. Like wanted to have this
Mhm.
conversation and tell her like, look, you're saying we're friends, but like I can't get married to someone and then have you around and like be wondering, are you going to try to hit on my husband? You know? So
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, this is the
exactly.
kind of relationship you should just cut out of your life.
For sure. And yeah, the fact that Micah was still trying to consider the relationship, thinking like about that, of like, girl, give it a rest. This is
Yeah.
not the type of friend you want. But clearly it is, because she has the blonde version
Oh
of
my gosh.
Irina as already a part of her friendship. So she probably felt like this was home away from home with Irina.
Yeah. Yeah. She's later when she talks to Bliss later, Micah is gonna tell Bliss that she told Irina also in this conversation that if 15 to 30 people already like feel a particular way about you, I'm assuming a negative way about you, maybe the problem is you and not them.
Mhm.
So thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah.
Let's see. Their Micah and Paul's physical and emotional connection is going around. We see way too much footsie, even on 1.5 speed. It was too
Yeah.
much. Um,
Yeah.
didn't need that. Okay, so we're gonna meet Paul's mom, Elizabeth.
Who,
Um,
private investigator of the year, because I was so impressed with how much she was able to find out about Micah with just the first name. Because even at that point, like today, we could type Micah Love is blind and we're going to get a lot of information at us, right?
right.
All she knows is Micah, Seattle, and she just went to work.
See, I was trying to figure out. I rewatched that scene like 3 times, and I was like, is she saying based off her name, she predicted that this was what the girl was like, or that she like actually did research?
No,
And
she
you,
did research.
oh,
She
okay,
found out all
okay,
that stuff. Like she was
okay, that's
accurate
funny.
in
Oh,
saying
okay,
it to
gotcha.
Micah. And Micah was like, "Oh my god."
Gotcha. Wow. I have a note also from my brother who says that the place they're at, which is called Rhinehouse, he said, this is where they meet Elizabeth. He says this place is, oh no, I scrolled too far up in the chat. Now we're talking about running. Hold on. Coming back. Okay. He said he's been there tons of times with friends, and they usually play bocce ball there. And sometimes,
Mm.
and they have good beer. So that is another place. He mentioned a lot of the restaurants that were places that he had either been to or been near in the Capitol Hill area. So seems like that was where they were filming a lot of these scenes.
Yeah.
Um, so I feel like this is a very clear example of people dating their parents because Micah
Hmm.
seems very similar to Elizabeth, like not necessarily in a creepy way or a bad way, but in more of like
Yeah.
a like like sometimes you'll see those people who are dating and you're like they kind of look like siblings. Like
Mhm.
yeah, like it's like sometimes I think you're kind of drawn to people who remind you of your family or whatever. And I do feel like from this conversation, like zero tension between Micah and Elizabeth. They seem like they could have a really good relationship.
They got
So
along
that's good.
very well. So I was
Yep.
like, this is a great reception
Yeah,
from my
I thought
Paul
so.
from Paul's mom.
Um, let's see. We can sort of jump to comparing that to Micah's parents, Paul and Patricia. This I feel like is the closest I've ever seen, especially with her dad, Paul, which oh my gosh, also, are they just dating each other's parents? Like you okay, whatever. Um, Paul is the most accurate person I've seen to what I feel like my dad could be like on one of these shows,
Mhm.
because when he first meets him and like has the reaction of seeing that they're engaged and he's like his face was like shocked and then like a little bit like
Mm.
teary-eyed, but like for initial shock, but like whoa, I'm not going to say anything about it, but um he says one of my favorite things also where he says, I get good vibes from Paul. I mean, he's a Paul. I mean, I don't really know him. He could be a serial killer. So it's like,
Which is hilarious because on Married at First Sight this season, we had two parents say, well, the person could be a serial killer. The person could be Jeffrey Dahmer. It was like, what, why are y'all making these
I
comparisons? Where
think
is this coming from?
what it was to me was it seemed like someone who's like, I don't want to be on record like saying this person is really great if it turns out they're
Yeah.
horrible, but like they seem fine so far.
Just so you know, I know anything is possible.
Yeah, I thought
But in
that was
this moment,
funny.
I like them.
Yeah, so her family seems nice. They seem like they get along too. Like not
Yeah,
a
like
whole lot.
easygoing.
Yeah, this is kind of whatever. We see his apartment, which where on the list of between Kwame and Brett do you put Paul's apartment?
Yeah, I think we could have a range of bachelor pads where Kwame is all the way worst type of bachelor pad. Paul is in the middle,
Yeah.
and then Brett is the best type of bachelor pad.
Yeah. Like I feel like I kind of identified with Paul's place where it was like you've got like everything is like okay, you've got furniture. None of it matches. Like you've
Yeah,
definitely gotten a lot of it on Facebook Marketplace or like
because you have
Craigslist
somewhere to
or it's
sit.
hand-me-downs. Like none of the wood is the same color. Um what I thought was most interesting about this was we got the scene first where we go and see Paul's apartment and she immediately seems to rule out his place. Like, "Oh, I don't want to live here." And she's like, "Yeah, we'll just have to split our time between Seattle and Arizona." Now, you and me talked before the podcast trying to figure out what is with Arizona. Is that where her family lives? Is that where she lives? We found two LinkedIn profiles for her, both one of which says Seattle and one of which says Arizona. So maybe she works remotely for one place. I don't know.
That's what I
But
feel like. So she has a place in Seattle and a place in Arizona. But the fact that they were able to easily meet with her parents, I feel like when she says her place in Arizona or in Seattle, that's her parents' place.
mm,
Unless she does have a separate place, she could. And so she says it feels like especially with the place that she works, that Seattle is like the office location, and she lives in Arizona and has needs to come up to Seattle for work from time to time. Even if she works remote, certain projects she could have to come up. So I feel like that may be the situation. But this is the first we're hearing of her potentially wanting to move back to Arizona.
yeah, this could have been a Frankenbite, but what she literally says on the show is, I feel like between your place, my place in Seattle, and the place in Arizona, we should get rid of this place, meaning his.
Yeah.
And then she says, I'd be pretty upset with you for not even wanting to try my like living conditions. And I'm like, well, you just immediately ruled out his. So you're upset
Right.
with him for anyway. But what's interesting is in the following scene, which is the scene where they meet her parents and they ask her, "Where would you live?" She would say, "Yeah, we'd probably live at his place." So it seems like they like got back on board with living this is where I was like so up and down with her because I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
the scene with him made it seem bad," but then when they meet her parents, she's talking like they're going to stay in Seattle.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
whether that be at his place or a new place in Seattle, it seems like we got rid of the Arizona option somewhere off
Somewhere
camera.
along the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which good, because at least we don't have
Yeah.
a Portland situation happening.
Yes. Okay. And then here's the big scene between the two of them in the episode. You already alluded to it. The heck is going on with Shelby?
I know. I thought Michaela was gonna be the problem at
No,
first.
Michaela seemed fine.
Yeah, Michaela was great. I thought like when they introduced each other, when they were introducing themselves to Paul, I was like, "Oh, is Michaela going to be unsure?" No, it was definitely Shelby who uh, like just completely rules him out based on this one conversation. And I know some people think first impressions are everything, right? But and Paul isn't the most like outgoing person, but this wasn't the type of conversation to rule him out completely.
I don't know what kind of guy she pictures Micah with, or if her scenario is that she just doesn't want Micah to like settle down. Like, I'm not sure what the issue is because so I think there was a miscommunication between Paul and Micah also in this scene. And it's hard to tell based on drinking. Maybe it was loud, maybe it was noisy. Maybe Micah is just so nervous and so wanting her friends to like him that she's like overanalyzing everything. But when we talked about Tiffany and Tiffany's friends, we talked about how it was great job done by Brett and great job done by Tiffany's friends. I think also good job done by Tiffany. In
Mhm.
this scene, I'm going to dock some points for Micah because basically you've got Micah's friend who's being horrible to Paul for no reason, just like
Mhm.
giving him faces, questioning everything about him, not letting him speak, not letting him get a sentence out. And when Micah's like asks him, "How does this make you feel?" I think Paul said the right thing in, "Oh, I'm just not like I'm not I'm not going to let it bother me. Like, oh, it doesn't mean anything to me if she doesn't like me. And
Yeah,
I think,
he said, "I can't say that I care."
yes. And
And
I think
Micah
there's a
heard, "I do
miscommunication.
not care about Shelby."
Right. When I think what he was trying to say was, she can like me or dislike me, that doesn't change the way I feel about you, and, like, I'm just, and also it felt like he was trying to be more like, I can hang with, like, yeah, like, you can, send me some jabs and it's okay, like, I'll be fine with it, I'll just laugh it off, which I think
Mhm.
also could have been a test, like, I could have seen a scenario where someone like Shelby is, like, trying to see how he's going to respond if she's gonna be harsh with him. And then we just get a very bizarre, there's clearly alcohol involved in this whole thing because when
Shelby was so drunk.
yes. So, like, we should be like, Micah should be taking everything Shelby is saying with a grain of salt because she's I have a couple friends who I feel like if I brought a significant other to meet them, that they'd be like afterward, like, "Ooh, Mary, I'm not sure about them. Like, that is not who I
Mhm.
picture you with." I have friends say that about my previous relationship. So, like, that's fine. They're not wrong, but
Mm.
but I do think there's, like, a level of, like, you don't tell your friend who's just started dating someone, "No, they're not the person for you, don't even try." Like, it's not who I picture you with. It's like, "Well, what do you picture me with? Like, why do you maybe you need to try and come around to them." And from
Yeah.
Shelby, this really seemed like this was, like, apropos of nothing, just, like, doesn't like Paul.
Yeah, that's the problem. I think that Micah doesn't have boundaries in her friendships when
Mm,
it comes to relationships because for Shelby had said that she has single-handedly terminated relationships for Micah.
that's not a
That
positive thing.
right? She felt so great about that. And that is just such a telling statement with how involved Shelby is with Micah's relationships, and how much Micah, like, you can value your friend's opinion, but and not allow them to run your relationships or be the deciding factor of your relationships.
Yep.
And so it's to this point where she has put Shelby's opinion on such a pedestal that even in this drunk moment of saying, "This isn't it. This wasn't meant for you." Micah's like, maybe she's right. Maybe this isn't meant for me. Because it was so rude of Shelby to just roll her eyes when Paul was answering one of the questions, and then Micah peeps that and is like, "Ah, he's a scientist. Like, this is how he answers everything." And it's just like, it Shelby needs to learn how to be a supportive friend. Micah needs to learn how to have boundaries in her relationships,
Eh,
because if she did, Shelby would have never felt like it was her place to be saying, "No, this isn't it. This is not the guy that's meant for you." Instead, she would have been like, "Well, let's see it through. Let's let my friend who knows him better than I do from the 5 minutes that I've spent with him make come to a conclusion about him, and let me be supportive and give her the advice that she wants when she needs it." So it was all too much.
And Paul is going to walk away and take a breather. And if I was Paul, I would be thinking, not only do I not like this scenario, I don't want Micah to be friends with this person. Like, I cannot
Mhm.
imagine having this person in my life who's going to be this micromanaging of their friend's relationship. Like, if I was Paul, I would not blame Paul if he was like, this makes me seriously question Micah because of the company she keeps.
Mhm.
And I don't think you need to, like, love somebody's friends necessarily, but I do think it says a lot about their relationship. And if we see in the next drop that Micah turns around and talks to Paul and is like, "Yeah, based on what my friends are saying, like, I just don't know if this would work." It's
Mhm.
like I would be that would be a problem.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
All
this whole
right.
scene was, I mean, it was very telling, because I had gotten to the point where because back and forth with how I'm feeling about how, if Micah is into Paul, especially with how she is interacting with Kwame when the whole gets together. And so I was distinguishing how I feel about Irina and uh, Micah. And so I think Irina is evil. I mean, we see her go after, or try to at least be she has this inappropriate interactions with Paul, who is her quote unquote best friend's fiance. I think with Micah, I don't think Micah intends to be awful in the moments that it's perceived that way. I feel like Micah is just a little bit more immature than
Mhm.
people would assume her to be. And so it comes out in this way. And, you are a reflection of the friends you keep. There are certain qualities of those friends that will rub off on you in certain situations. And I feel like that's when we get to see these tastes of Shelby. And then she probably has tastes of Michaela where it's like a little bit more positive and she's a little bit more into it, or she gets, she starts to feel a little bit more like Shelby and has those mean girl tendencies. So yeah, I think with Micah it's a little bit just more immaturity.
Yep. Yep, that's that is what it feels like. Which is funny when you compare to Paul, who when we go to Chelsea's birthday party, Amber's gonna show up, and Paul's like, "Oh, saw Amber. Definitely was interesting because this is someone I dated, but based on my relationship with Micah, I just think I just need to completely avoid her." Yes,
That's the
yes,
way to do it.
that's what you
Imagine.
do. Imagine
Yes.
being so mature as to just not even tempt yourself with the drama.
He didn't walk up to Micah like Kwame walked up to Chelsea and was like, "I'm gonna need to do this. I have to talk to her. She's somebody I had a relationship with in the pod. I have to talk to her." That's what it's called. That's what Paul did, is what commitment is. And he realized if I really want this relationship with Micah, I cannot open this door and try to have this conversation, have an unnecessary conversation with Amber when I know that I'm all in on Micah.
Yeah.
And we've even seen Paul in the last drop like talking to Zach, like, wait, am I questioning? Am I thinking? And so we see that he has moved past that. Or else if he was still in that confused mindset, he would have at least like, well, let me at least say hi to Amber and talk to her. So
Yeah.
I was so proud of Paul for not even engaging.
And I think it's also shows that maybe the choice was not as close between Amber and Micah as we might have thought.
I think it could have been. I think it says more about Paul than their connection.
Mm,
I think it says more about Paul's maturity and his level of commitment
yeah.
compared to Kwame.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so we've got two couples left. Who do we want to talk about next?
So listen, this couple is the couple that is in the running for my number one favorite couple.
Oh,
I just feel like I there were moments that I just stopped note taking and just enjoyed watching them. And I think there may be varying opinions out there, because I was surprised when I talked to my brother, Aston, and and he was like, I didn't get that from them. I was like, oh, I thought everyone felt the emotions that we felt. Like, I have a group chat with some of my friends, and when we got to the moment of them on the boat, my friend literally sent a video of herself with her hand over her mouth, just like shocked and thinking, oh my gosh, this is so sweet. So I'm very excited to see how you feel about them. But I, for one, love this couple, and I didn't know I would love them this much.
sometimes you watch a show, it's just a silly dating show, and you think, can this work? And you watch a couple and you go, they would have never met outside of this show, but they are just two peas in a pod. And you wouldn't necessarily think it by looking at them, but watching them interact. Oh my gosh. Okay. Zach and Bliss. We get the end of their first date at the restaurant.
Yeah, imagine people thought I was talking about Marshall and Jackie.
No,
I
no,
realized I said all
no.
that without saying their names yet. I'm like, yeah, Marshall and Jackie. Mwah, love them.
Yeah, no.
No, we'll wait for them. But yes, Zach and Bliss.
Zach and Bliss, who So they have their first date, and we got the end of that at the restaurant. Here, okay, I'm gonna say this. This applies to all of their conversations. This is the thing that I want to say. I'm sure they've had the conversation, but we don't get it on the show. The one thing I'm missing from Zach is, if I was Bliss, the one thing I'm missing from Zach is, okay, I can let bygones be bygones. I can let things pass. I need you to explain to me what it was that you saw in Irina when you were in the pods that you did not see in me. What is the reason you picked her
Mhm.
first? I can understand that you don't like her anymore, that you have no interest in her, and that you feel good with me. I get that. That's all great. And I can understand that people make mistakes. What I need to know is, for our relationship moving forward, if we're going to make this work, what was it that you did not see in me, or that you saw particularly in her that I couldn't bring you? Because I need to, I need to know that if there was something that was lacking, then I need to, bring that to the table. And also, I need you to understand, and I think Bliss does a better job of this, how it feels to be your second pick and how that's going to be like a thing in the back of my mind. Like, I feel like in every
Mhm.
conversation, he admits that he made a mistake. He admits that he has no interest in her, and he explains how horrible she was. But I think from Bliss's point of view, I would still feel like it'd be difficult to be like, yes, I tried to tell you that it wouldn't work out between the two of you, and that how Irina wasn't great. And even when she mentions that later on, he's like, "Oh, see, there's you feeling pretentious, but thinking you're better than Irina." And I think that that's like our best hint at what the answer was, with that Zach felt like Irina was, instead of interpreting the truth, which is maybe she's just a mean girl, what he thought instead was that he thought instead was that Irina was like a sort of like a lost puppy kindred spirit to him, like had some things that
Mhm.
weren't perfect, and that he felt like he could relate to that. But, like, that's not exactly what the case was, and I don't think that it's I don't yeah, here's the thing, I don't think it's pretentious for someone like Bliss to think that they are, I mean, the word better is rough, but, like, that they are more mature or nicer or kinder than someone else. That's not a
Mhm.
pretentious thing, that can just be facts.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe it's even with himself. Like, yeah, a little bit with Irina, but we know how he feels about his background.
Mhm.
And Bliss is so confident. And maybe he thought, like, he had that insecurity that, okay, maybe she's going to think that she's better than me
Right.
before meeting her. But I'm so glad in this date that, for one, we see a whole new side of Zach. We see a Zach who is more confident than he was with Bliss or with Irina. A Zach that is, comfortable making the eye contact, which was funny that he asked her about. She's like, "Wait, why do you ask? Am I looking away? Like, what?" He's like,
I love that.
"No,
I love that
Irina
her
didn't like it."
instinct, when he said, "Do I make too much eye contact?" I love that her instinct was to say, "Oh shoot, am I not looking him in the eye enough?" Because that was
Yeah.
so relatable. I'm someone who,
Mhm.
especially on first dates, I have to remind myself, like, look at them, look at them. Don't just like wander your eyes because you like feel like it's uncomfortable, like
Yeah.
that you're, like, I feel like I'm deficient for not looking you in the eye, I guess.
It's so hard to, like, I can easily look someone in the eyes when they're talking, but when I'm talking,
Yeah,
I'm thinking with my eyes. So it's all over the place. And
I feel
sometimes
that.
I catch myself doing that when I'm, like, really thinking about it. I'm like,
Mhm.
"Wait, let me refocus."
Yes.
But yes, I love this first day, and the major thing that I loved was that Bliss wasn't just like, "Okay, thank you so much for calling me, and this, like, I'm all in." She was appropriately hesitant. She didn't give him any validation that this would go beyond this sit down right here, and that he needed to know how she felt not being picked initially. Like, it's great that we're meeting now, and they had a certain level of easiness between them, because yeah, they did fall in love in the pods, which, like, it's hard to it sometimes could be hard to forget. But I really liked how she approached this date, not like, well, this is a great start, but more so, I'm glad that this happened. We'll see what happens.
Because it's a special scenario, and we haven't really even mentioned up front. This is the first time on Love is Blind that we're going to get someone who's going to be an engaged couple living in the apartments, going through the process, that did not propose in the pods.
Mhm.
And so this is a new scenario. And, you know, I think I hold nothing against Zach for wanting to immediately pursue the relationship with Bliss, like immediately say, okay, it didn't work out with this one person, but if I'm given the opportunity, I would like to do this. Because yeah, in the real world, you get engaged to someone, you probably shouldn't immediately like essentially rebound with someone else, or like it's not exactly
Mhm.
the right term. But I think like for him, he says some of my problems have been like not making decisions. Like I take a long time to make decisions, and I am notorious for basically not uh striking while the iron's hot. And I want to
Yeah.
like do that now. If I have a chance right now, I want to try. And I'm sure they're having the conversations that we want them to be having. Maybe they just weren't on camera. Uh
For
but
sure. For
but
them
yeah,
to jump to that to jump to an engagement, there was definitely so much we didn't see,
right.
but
But she says in both the conversation on their first date and also when she goes to his apartment, she says a lot. Like he'll mention something about, oh, in the future we should blah blah blah, and she'll say, we'll see. And she
yeah.
says that a lot. And I think like and she even says, like, I need to be hesitant with you. You broke my heart. I can't just be completely open. Like seeing you, the feelings come back, but I need to give you a little bit of a hard time right now because it's not normal to hang out with someone who just dumped you and got engaged to another person. Like you get
Mhm.
one F up by proposing to another girl and like you're on
That's
notice,
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I do like about them is we were so wondering in the first drop of why it seemed like, we get Jackie, we get Chelsea, we get Micah, we get a lot of people saying that Zach seems creepy or odd or whatever. I think a lot of that is because when you're watching someone interact with someone who's not interested in them, that little moves like putting your arm around someone or trying to kiss their cheek could seem creepy. And we're getting a
Mhm.
lot of thoughts filtered through Irina. When you see Zach with Bliss, it does seem like a lot of the other contestants in this show, other couples, kind of give him a second chance of like, oh, actually, like Zach is just like really genuine. Like, yeah, he's a little weird, he's a little dorky, but like they seem cute together. And maybe I haven't looked at Twitter to see if Twitter has changed their mind on Zach, because I think we are seeing a lot of tweets in the first drop too of like, oh, Zach gives off major creep vibes. And like I think
Yeah.
he's just a little awkward. Like I think you could be awkward and not necessarily be like, evil.
Yeah, I think his awkwardness uh a is like a cute quality with Bliss,
Mhm.
because Bliss is also awkward,
Yes.
and they just match so much better. And
Ugh.
even just talking about like when they talked about like the Furbies and the Digipets and the and Gremlins, like it was just such a it didn't feel like, why are they talking about this? It felt like we're seeing them in their normal environment, and in just how they're having conversations and just how they are such a better match. And so I feel like Zach seems like such a he's just a different man with Bliss, and which obviously will, change our opinions about him
Mhm.
in general. But I feel like what the thing is, he's more himself with Bliss.
It's like that classic thing where people say the difference between someone being creepy or cute is 100% on whether or not you're attracted to them. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's like if you subbed out Irina and put Bliss in all those scenes in Mexico, I think it would have been a
Hmm.
very different look.
Yeah.
Um,
And same goes for this batch. If you sub out Bliss and put Irina,
yeah,
imagine how she would have reacted with him with the stakes being ruined.
yeah.
Like he can't, if he can't even take care of steaks, like how would I trust that he could take care of, our relationship?
All right, I'm not an expert on cooking meat, but from what I could tell, he had put the steaks that were marinated and they were probably frozen or cold, and he had put them in some sort of water, but they were in bags in order to thaw them out, and
Yeah.
water got into the bags.
Hmm.
It probably would not make them taste great, but I don't think that like it chemically ruins the steak to where it'd be like dangerous if you cooked it. It gets a
No,
little
I don't think
watery.
I think it's ruined in terms of flavor profile
Right.
because
Okay.
they have been
It's like
marinating and now that water's in them, they're no longer marinated the way that they were
yes.
before.
Yes, and so I was like, "Wait a second. It's not
Yeah.
like" I mean, it's like, yeah, it's like it's a disaster kind of,
Yeah.
but, like, if it was me, maybe they had a time constraint, but if it was me, I'd be like, "Just cook the steak, like, we'll just eat it
Yeah.
anyway." Like, it's not gonna be great, but we'll eat it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so many of their conversations in the apartment maybe it's just because I know a lot of people like Zach, and I identify so much with Bliss. Like, I don't know that I've seen someone on a show who I feel like I share so many qualities with as
Mhm.
her, but like, he's a little like, he's definitely he's got his, like, he's got his, like, owls with a magic sword painting, and he was talking about how he has, like, motion sensors that play music when you, like, open doors, like, I know
Harry
people who would
Potter.
do that kind of thing. Would I
Mhm.
do it? I'd say, like, on the tier of, like, dorky nerdiness, like, there's different things, like, I play Dungeons& and Dragons, but I wouldn't do the motion sensors with the music, like, there's, like, just different things. But
Yeah.
I think, like, if Bliss is even not necessarily doing that, like, I think she can appreciate it, and that's not, like, a turn off to her.
Yeah. She's like, "Oh, Harry Potter, that's a good choice," rather than, "Why would you do
Okay, why
that?"
would you do that? That's so weird.
Yeah.
I did think it was very interesting and telling that he said that her voice to him in the pods, he thought that she was very nerdy based off her voice, but
Mhm.
then looking at her, he didn't think that connected. Um, I recently had an experience on a dating app where there's like I can't remember which app it is, but one of the apps you can put like interests and people put like sports, family oriented, like movies, books, whatever. And on my thing, I had put there's like six options. There were six things I had on there, but two of them were, I think, board games and video games.
Mhm.
Now, Asia, you've been known to play some video games from time to time. I don't know if you're into board games, but for me, maybe just the way I grew up, board games and video games are just like a thing people do. Like
Yeah.
they play board games, they play video games, like grew up playing, you know, both of those things.
Mhm.
And I had someone reach out to me and immediately say, "Oh my gosh, so you must be a huge nerd, right?" And I was like, "What?" And they're like, "Well, I see that you play board games and video games, and not many girls do that. So you must be like a really nerdy girl." And I was like, I know so many I was like, "I don't know what girls you're hanging out with, but, like, lots of girls play board games and video games." Like, I'm very confused. I was like, my sister, who I would not consider to be particularly nerdy, plays board games and video game like, what are we talking about? And I
Yeah,
thought that was,
people
like,
are so annoying.
such a weird comment. I was like, I don't like, compared to what? Like, I don't know. I'm so
Yeah.
confused. Like
It's annoying when people define hobbies and just try to make it your whole personality rather than just that's a hobby you enjoy.
I mean, there are certainly nerdy board games and video games, and I also completely say I am a nerd. So like I'm not saying you're wrong. What I am saying is that was just an odd thing to say, and I do not think those things are like mutually exclusive. I think there's plenty of people who play lots of video games who would not consider themselves to be nerdy at all. So
Yeah, it's an overgeneralization without having the full
what?
picture. Like,
So odd.
I'm sure people would say the amount of knowledge that we have for Love is Blind is like a first level, then Big Brother,
Right,
and
yeah.
then Survivor. They would say, "Oh, those two are nerds."
Oh, look, I am a nerd. I get it. But I just thought I was like, I guess I had never looked at like especially video games as being like to me that's not like I don't know. I guess when I think of people playing maybe it's also video games I'm playing. Like I'm playing Tony Hawk. Is that like very nerdy? I don't know. I don't know.
I
Uh
used to
it's like no,
love
like
me
I'm
some Tony Hawk.
cool. Like I guess when I thought like especially like girls playing video games, I was like, oh no, they must be like very like I don't know, broy. Like
Mhm.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know. But I'm like video games. You could put that you play video games and you're playing The Sims. Is that like a nerd? I don't. Anyway, it's fine.
Yeah.
I'm nitpicking. My point was, I don't know that I would say that Bliss's voice sounded particularly nerdy. Maybe it was the thing she was saying.
I could when
But
he said that, I was like, "Well, let me close my eyes and let me just not imagine Bliss." And I think you just wouldn't imagine her to be so stunning with how she sounds. It is a little bit of a mismatch with her voice and how she, like, I don't think he would have pictured her to be so beautiful. Not that her voice is unattractive. It just, her voice doesn't sound like it's coming out of Bliss's body.
Interesting. I am learning that I don't understand the, like, voice thing, because this is something we talked about last time. We were talking about how we felt like Kwame was leaning partially towards Micah because she had a voice that would be stereotypical for, like, a quote unquote hot girl.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, look, I hate my voice. I've never liked my voice, and also from someone who a lot of people know me purely from an auditory medium.
Mhm.
I have no idea. I'd be so curious to know what people think my voice sounds like in terms of how I would look, like how
Yeah.
those things are related. Um,
Maybe,
but
how
I
about
don't
this?
know.
If y'all are out there and you're listening to the audio podcast and you've never looked at the video podcast, you never looked at us on YouTube, and then you come to YouTube and you see us for the first time. Maybe there's somebody out there that they just have no idea what we look like.
Yeah.
Then you come to see us on YouTube. Please tweet at us and let us know if our voices match what you see on
Yes.
YouTube.
Would love that. Did you, by hearing my voice, could you tell that I was dressed like a character from Blue's Clues?
Oh my goodness, that's so accurate. I don't know, Steve or no?
I look like Steve.
Yeah.
What is this? It's a very comfortable sweater.
I have on a shirt from Target that says "Choose kindness."
This is from Target too. Look
Hey,
at us. Just wearing
Target
Target
is
clothes.
not a sponsor of this
It's
podcast.
not. We don't have any sponsors. Okay. So, uh oh, I do have a question. Actually, this does bring up something from Twitter though. Um uh Somebody says, let's see, Idle Half says, a very inconsequential question, but I have to know if y'all think that Bliss's voice sounds like Jonay's from The Challenge. I can't stop hearing it. Do you watch The Challenge? Do you
I do
know
watch the
Jonay?
challenge, and when they said that, I said that is spot on.
Yeah, it
But
is
I
pretty accurate.
also thought that about, I said that on the podcast last season about Alexa.
You thought Alexa sounded like Jonay?
Mhm.
I'd have to go back and listen to her voice too.
But I could also see that for Bliss. And I don't know if it's the way they talk or the tone. But
Hmm.
I can definitely see it.
Interesting. Okay, so we get the proposal on the boat.
Did you
This
think
is
it was gonna happen?
yes, mostly because of the, like,
The
intro thing at
previews.
the beginning of
Gotcha.
the yeah. Um,
Oh,
but
fast forwarded through that so I could just watch everything live.
I think mostly, um, I thought it was gonna happen because I felt like everything that I was seeing from Bliss in the previous 2 scenes was she likes him. The only thing she's being hesitant about is the circumstance,
Mhm.
with the like, I think that if he had proposed to her in the pods, she would have 100% said yes. I think that given the experiment, the only reason someone would have felt good in the pods, but then not want to say yes would be if they found them incredibly unattractive and they were like, you know what, we're not beholden to the format at this point, so I
Yeah.
don't need to see yes. The fact
Yeah.
that she did see him, thought he was fine, and that their conversation was good and they seemed to have real world chemistry, I thought that she would certainly say yes. Um, I mostly identified with her from I have definitely been in scenarios where you're like, okay, she is a person who in any silence talks, like kind of nervous talks, a little bit of rambling, but like he's standing up. He's getting walking against the wall. I think if I were her and I thought we were on a show, I would think, okay, a proposal could be happening. He's reaching, he's obviously pulling his jacket open, reaching inside to get a ring box. And she's just like,
Still
yeah, so like
talking.
gremlins, I feel like if you put water on the gremlins, like something happens. And I'm like, yep, totally. I would identify with that. I like just like have to talk to fill silence and I'm doing it to distract myself from what is coming. Like I
Even before that,
related
she
so much.
did that when she had the hat on, and he was like, "Oh, I feel like that's like a kissing barrier." She takes off the hat, but still is talking
Talking while
while
he's
he kisses her. She's still talking. I was like, "Aren't they kissing right now? Why am I
I'm looking
continuing
at
to
this.
hear audio from her?"
Yeah, I was like, oh, hold on. Is this ADR? Like how am I seeing their lips touching, but I'm still hearing talking? Um, I thought
It
it was
wasn't even
so
like
adorable.
talk, talk, kiss. talk, talk,
No,
kiss.
no.
It was like talk, 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 kiss is happening
He's
in the
talking into
middle.
his mouth. And I
Yeah.
think also I liked the fact that he kissed her before he proposed because I think for him that was like, okay, let's try like if she's like grossed out, if I'm giving her the ick like Irina, like if
Yeah.
she doesn't let me kiss her,
I also
but
think that they have kissed before this because
probably.
for him to say that the hat was kissed, like it was a kissing barrier, I was like, that's a little bold if you've
Yeah,
never kissed before.
true. True.
So I feel like they made some strides in like this previous week that we really didn't see, but it was so necessary for them, especially not having Mexico, to be able to build that physical chemistry even before the proposal, which is outside the confines of this show. However, I'm so glad that they have this proposal. It's beautiful. I literally was so happy while it was happening. The song helped. I think someone pointed it out. It was
Oh,
like
yes.
what song it
It's
was.
called it's "If You Love Her" by Forrest Black.
Yes, it was perfect.
So that's a real song.
Yes.
That's not a Netflix song.
Right.
I was going to write down the lyrics to some of the other ones, but I didn't because they were just so ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, so I just feel like the proposal was so beautiful. Just it was great. Like even him standing and her sitting and him trying to kiss her, it could have been awkward, but they made it work because they are,
Yeah.
I truly believe, a really great match. And so I was so happy for them. I was so glad now they were moving into the apartment to join the process. I was so nervous they weren't going to, but I was like, hey, we got them.
Yeah, I like it. She fits in when they go to the Chelsea's party.
Hmm.
She seems to get along with everyone's happy to see them. Um, you know,
I I was questioning how shocked Marshall was when he got there and he's like, "Oh, hey, Bliss. Okay." And then she shows him the ring. He's like, "What? I'm sorry. Do they not have a group chat? Like, where is their group
Marshall's been
text to
dealing with a
announce
lot.
these things?"
Marshall's Marshall's been Marshall's been in a, in a lot
So
right now.
he ignores the messages in the group text even if it involves an engagement. Got it.
Maybe.
He's that guy.
All right. Speaking of which, let's do it. Let's talk about Marshall and Jackie. All right. I can't say that we didn't see this coming. This is here's how to read the edit of the Love is Blind podcast. If Aysha and Mary are talking about how they like individuals, but not necessarily a couple, it's because we see bad things in their future.
We have
All
a
right.
crystal ball that saw something going awry. I'd say the only positive for them this episode were those delicious pancakes that he made. And I would have enjoyed the powdered sugar, the compote. It just they were fluffy. You can really go wrong with like not getting the right amount of fluff in a pancake at
Mhm.
home. And I wanted some.
All right. I have to look up Marshall's age again. Let's see. Jackie's 27 and Marshall's 27. Okay, they're both 27. So, okay. They're not they're around my age. Here's my question for Marshall is similar to my question for Chelsea, which is what is your current dating scenario like? What is it about dating in a normal way that makes you feel like you need to go on one of these shows? Because Marshall, I have yet to see anything that doesn't seem almost perfect about him. Not completely. I mean, I know there are people who've said that they feel like, especially the way that he interacted with Josh in the pods, made it seem like maybe he had a little bit of like could have a temper. Um, I think after we see Josh in this episode, I think it's warranted, but that's just me. I if I'm Marshall, I'm curious to know what it is when he is having conversations with Jackie that makes him feel like this is going to work. Now he does
I
make her
mean, he
pancakes.
explains it.
Well, he does, but
He sees
okay,
limitless potential in her.
yes, but
Which I can totally see in him. I can see him being a guy that like some guys are attracted to that. They are attracted to a woman that they can see being great, but they think that they have to fix her. Like
mhm,
they're like, "Oh, there are things about her that I could fix." And I'm like he is obviously very attracted to her. But he sees that there could be things that could be improved, and he feels like he could help that.
So, and he strikes me as the kind of person, this is the kind of person who you'll see a lot who, if somebody is, let's say, like a single parent, like a single mother or a mother, who's a single parent, that you'll meet these guys and you're like, oh my gosh, they're just so perfect. They came in, they they helped her, they were completely wonderful to her children, and that's not exactly the same as like wanting to fix a person or feel like they're a project, but it is the same kind of thing where it's someone who's just like so invested in being there for someone that they are okay with any baggage or complications of that there might be. Um, and so I don't think that there's anything wrong with that by any means. I think the way he describes it, there's a lot left to be desired in his terminology. I think telling someone that they're a project, if someone told me that, I would be just as offended as Jackie was. Um, and he does seem to kind of correct himself when he then talks about the potential. Uh, so before we get to the whole fight, she is going to meet some of his family. Now, before that, she seems to be. He's saying like she's in a down mood. Um, what did you think of the scene directly before they meet his family? Who I think was it his sister
It
and
was
her
his sister
family?
and his brother-in-law, so
Okay.
his
And
sister's
their
husband.
adorable child who has the
Yes.
cutest cow print, overalls, and I want those. I want those in an adult size. They're so cute. Ah,
Uh,
I loved
you're
those
like,
so
by
much.
the way, where did you get
Where
those?
did you buy
Where's
those?
the fit
Because I
from?
need them. I love them.
Yeah, okay. So I thought that Jackie was having another one of her moments, which we did find out since last time, because last time we weren't aware of this information. Um, but the reason that she was having that breakdown in Mexico was because she found out that I'm trying to get it correct. I don't want to misspeak, but she did find out that her dad, just making sure. Oh my gosh, all these pop ups. Okay. So her dad doesn't have a job, and she also realized that he had, or she revealed that he had cancer. And so she was having to go back home every weekend to take care of him. And so that was one of the things that, like, when she's referencing like things back at home, that was one of them. And so I do, you know, with that context, that helps understand like how, emotional she became in Mexico. And then when this happened before, I was like, what is it now? Because like obviously context helps. I was like, what don't we know
Mhm.
that is stressing her out right now? And but for her to say like she doesn't think she can do this, I was like, okay, that's a little bit extreme because you're just about to meet his family. So it just felt like she's having these doubts about their connection. And even though Marshall has been the supportive one, he has been this whole time, she's starting to be stressed out by himself. And so I'm like, what is going on in your head? What is going on?
Yeah, we got a couple people on Twitter asking basically, is is there like, should Jackie even be someone who's trying to go on this show and get married? Like, is this the right kind of support she needs? Which I think is like a little like, we don't know Jackie. We don't know. Like, maybe she's just an emotional person. Emotional people are allowed to get married. Like,
Mhm.
they can, they you don't you don't need, while it's true that like you should not rely on a relationship to like fix yourself, you don't need to be 100% perfect to like deserve love, in my
Mhm.
opinion. Um, it does seem like there's a lot we're not understanding or seeing about their dynamic. It does not really feel like this is something that like Marshall is Uh, I okay, so I guess we
Well,
can just
he did say she has a tendency to ruminate. Not gonna lie, I had to Google it. And so that means to think deeply about something.
yeah,
So
and to,
I
like,
think
sit
he's
in those thoughts for a long time and to kind of, like, you can get in kind of like a sometimes like, ruminating is not always bad, like, sometimes people can ask you a deep question, you say, like, "I'm gonna need to ruminate on that for a little while," but it could also be where you can sort of get in your head and go over things so many times that you're kind of in a thought spiral on it, so it can be both.
yes. And I think it would help to be able to communicate what she
Mhm.
is really feeling. Like, for example, we find out that her mom is not happy that she did this experiment. So she feels like she's just going through the emotions and she's trying to figure out, like, by her making this decision to get married, how that's going to affect her family, period. And so it just seems like she is definitely not in an emotional or, yeah, in an emotional place right now to get married. But we also, in the transition to this fight, we also see a lot of emotional immaturity from her just
Yeah.
throughout this entire argument,
Hey,
just
yes.
filled with disrespect.
It, I don't dislike Jackie, like, that's the thing, like, I find her to be very funny, I think that she seems very fun and like you know, it doesn't seem like a, you know, a nefarious person in the way that other people on the show have been. It does make me wonder though, like, with her and Kwame, if your family dynamic is something that's very important to you to have support in a relationship and you know they're not gonna support this decision, don't go on the show because I don't think that that should be an excuse that you can use with that's not fair to the person that you're with, right?
Mhm.
And it makes me wonder if you truly are looking for marriage, was your hope that you would just find someone who blew you away enough to
Yeah,
feel
that's exactly what
okay
they thought.
with not, you know, it's like I think that there are enough people out there who are looking for relationships that uh don't have the barrier of family disapproving of it to go on the shows. But um yeah, so the the fight well, we get the start of it from and I also wanna be clear, we're getting a lot of their relationship from Marshall's perspective and a lot of, like, highlighting Marshall's thoughts and feelings, um, and then with Jackie, we get more like, "I need time, I need to think, I feel stressed," and not as much of, like, from her words, how she feels about Marshall. We don't get
I
a
think
lot of
there's
that.
a reason for that. I think that she's not communicating that.
Yeah.
She does not strike me as someone, I mean, don't get me wrong. As an individual, she may be fine. I am completely basing my opinions on her in this relationship,
Mhm.
and she is not handling she is not she's not handling this relationship in a way that she actually wants it.
Mhm.
Like, the things she's saying, you can't take back. And I know a lot of people fight like that, like, they'll fight in this unfair way that, "Oh, okay, well, I'll apologize," or "It's okay." It's just like like, words have power, and I
Oh,
think
yeah.
we had a lot of misconceptions growing up. "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me." Words can't hurt people, which we see in this situation, which is the reason he left, is because she said, "You need to boss up. You're not being aggressive enough," which he took as she's saying he's not man enough. So that's how he's feeling. He's feeling emasculated. And for her, she thought it was just a casual, like, "Hey, I'm just saying, boss up. Just be a little bit more aggressive." I think aggressive is the incorrect word in the situation. What she wants is for him to be more dominant. And I think that that was what was misconstrued here, because for her to say aggressive and then he tried to use aggressive within the fight, like, "Oh, I'm being aggressive now. This is what you wanted. This is what you wanted." Like, no, I don't think she wants an aggressor. I think she wants someone who can take charge, someone who is more dominant. And she specifically says they're not having sex. Like, she's calling out the specific areas in their relationship. She wants him to be more dominant, but instead she's saying aggressive. So then everything's being lost in communication because he's like, he's thinking she just wants someone who can, like, you know, push her around. And it's like, no, it's not that. She wants someone who who is putting forth that effort to, like she said, put her in the mood or whatever, and he wants that as well, right? But they're not communicating it properly. You can't reveal this in this blow up argument and expect it to, oh, I'm going to take these proper notes, take it away so we can have a better relationship. It's just, I think that's why I just feel like I saw so much emotional immaturity of her in this argument itself, for her to just be like, oh, then why are you with me then if I'm not doing that for you? Well, you just said he's not doing that for you, so he could use the same argument. Why are you still with him? So
Yeah.
it was so just like, what you're saying is so irrelevant to what y'all's true issue is. And it was so annoying because Marshall clearly was just so caught off guard and just confused in how to handle this and like what she really wanted, because
Mhm.
she's packing up her stuff to leave, right? Like she's thinking like he didn't even want to stay. And so it's just like, for his clap to be misconstrued as him clapping at her, like she acts like he was clapping at her face. Like he put his hands together as he's making a point. This is a tense situation. And she, like, that's what any just childish argument turns into.
Mhm.
Well, why you step your foot at me like that? Like just irrelevant stuff that doesn't matter.
Now you're fighting about the fight, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I completely agree with everything you're saying. I think it's like I'm trying to be sensitive because we we're watching a TV show. We don't know all these people. We don't know all the nuances, and so I don't like to, like I feel like sometimes people are like, "Why you're not mean enough about them?" It's like, well, they're real people. Like I don't want to be mean, but like I can have thoughts that like, oh, I wouldn't want to be friends with this person, or I don't think that they're being nice. But
Yeah,
like,
guys, we're not Irina and Shelby and Micah, okay?
yeah, like I don't, I yeah, but it's like I think that they're I think that they're just incompatible.
Yeah,
I
that's what
think
it
that
boils down
I
to.
can hear what you're saying about like Marshall wanting someone that he sees potential in and that he like wants to like, help quote unquote fix or whatever. But I think really the situation is more like it's kind of a classic scenario is like you want something that, it's kind of more like you want the chase, right? And that's not exactly the same scenario, but it's like sometimes you want things that are not necessarily the best for you. Like Marshall is a very like he's a very understanding, supporting person from what we've seen. And so but like maybe we're seeing those things because he's putting himself in relationships where he needs to be supportive and understanding.
Mhm.
If he was with someone who just also was supportive and understanding, maybe he'd feel like couldn't like flex that side of himself. Like I don't know,
Mhm.
like maybe he feels like he needs some pushback so that he can be like, you know I don't know, showing that. I agree with what you're saying about there's a big difference in being dominant versus being aggressive. I have certainly had people say things to me that I'm like, "Whoa, that's a thing that is going to stick with me." Like that comment, and it's going to be difficult
Mhm.
to get over that comment. And I think that there's like a bigger picture here of um and I can't like sit people down and say like this is how you should have had that conversation. But it's like if what you're looking for in the bedroom is some dominance, then the way to say that is like I know it's complicated because people always talk about this. They're like, well, the point is I don't want to have to say it to you. If I have to say it to you, it like defeats the whole thing that I want, right? And I
Yeah,
get
this
that.
is
But it's
also a
like
stranger.
but if you're in a new relationship and someone can't like read all your cues, it's like
Exactly.
you need to have a conversation. And maybe you don't do it while you're in the bedroom. You do it at different times, saying, like, you know what, I kind of would like it'd be nice if like maybe you could try being a little dominant in the bedroom. And I think it's also completely fine for him to say, that's not really me. I'm not really comfortable with that. And then yes, maybe you're not compatible. Maybe that's what he
Yeah.
discovered, if that's like very important to you. Or he could say, okay, I'm not necessarily into that. And like, here's what I would need from you. In order for me to do that, I might need you to show a little more affection towards me so I can feel comfortable doing that,
Yeah.
you know? So,
It
and it's a big immature response in general to say, like, well, why are you with me then if you don't like all of my negative things? It's like, well,
yeah.
I'm with you because I like certain things about you, but that doesn't mean that I can't also find things that would be nice to improve. Like,
Yeah. The problem, yes, I do think a lot of this argument Jackie was in the wrong. But I cringed. The way I cringed on my couch when he said she was a project,
Yeah, I was like,
I was
"Oh,
just like,
not
that
good,
was
not
the
good."
wrong thing to say, my
Yes.
guy. Like, okay, so originally this was stated by Project Pat, but was made more famous by J. Cole. Don't save her. She don't want to be saved. Okay.
Yeah.
This is not a situation where she is looking for you for that guidance or looking for you to improve these areas of her life.
Mhm.
She is looking for a partner, as
Yep.
well as you should be looking for a partner. So for
Mhm.
him to say project was, I mean, it was revealing his mindset. Like, he saw her as someone that could be worked on. He's like, he sees like he said, limitless potential. Like, is she your mentee? Like, what is, I understand, like, and I know, and I say I understand that there are guys like that because I've seen that happen, and I don't think that is healthy in any situation. It's like, yeah, you can look to each other to make each other better, but not, oh, I'm doing well for myself, I think I'm great, but I really think I can help this person become a better, like, just become better because I see some flaws. And so it's just like, ugh, Marshall, I I was kind of with you until that. And I'm just like, now I'm on the fence about
Mhm.
Marshall. Like, I just am not questioning his love for her. I definitely think he loves her. But I'm questioning his ability to have a proper healthy relationship
Yes.
because of his view of her, like, specifically in this relationship, for him to say, you've never, he was like, you never had like a real relationship, so now he's thinking he has to teach her how to be in
Yeah,
relationships.
he's like, "I have more experience in relationships, so I can, like, help you." And and you've expressed this so well. I started all this by saying, "I'm confused with Marshall and what he's looking for in a relationship," and what I meant was, I'm confused with his ability to pick a good relationship for himself, and I'm confused
Mm-hmm.
by his desires in a relationship that would make him feel like his thing that he's looking for is someone that he can quote unquote fix, right?
Yeah.
Because I think it's one thing to say, here are the qualities I'm looking for. If I get 80% of them, I'm okay trying to just hope that those other 20% that we can work on that and that can build in the future. And that maybe that's some of me realizing that I shouldn't want those things. Maybe there's stuff in my own life that I need to change for a person because he seems very offended when she says there are qualities about you that I would like you to work on or change or adapt or whatever, right? So why would she not feel the same way? Um it someone telling someone that they're a project or that they're something that needs to be worked on is saying you're not a full person. You're not a you Marshall, you got offended when she said that you weren't man enough or that was the implication. You are telling her that she is not, whether it be woman enough or person enough or human enough to
Or adult
to or
enough.
adult enough
Yeah.
to be who you are. And what I need instead is I need to fix you, I need to change you, I need you to be better. And, like, I think that I'm not saying that she can't improve and grow in those things. I'm saying it's a weird dynamic for a relationship to go into it with that being the goal, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that there's a very big difference between saying, "I'm going to compromise on certain things and hope that some things we can just work together on and grow and be better together," versus, "I see things that I want to change about you."
Yeah.
That is
Exactly.
questionable.
And
Um,
I'm
so yeah.
yeah, I'm glad he takes it back eventually. And that she just kind of like caves and goes and hugs him and cries, and it's like, I think they reached the point in the argument where they realize they no longer know what they're arguing about. And it's just like, what was all of this for? And it was just like that glimmer of like, okay, I don't want to completely lose this. But
There's
right now.
clearly emotion and feeling from both of them towards each other, like, where they hug, they're both crying, but I think that there can be a point in arguments where you've both said some things and feel some things that are going to be very difficult to continue being in a relationship after saying, because it's not
Hmm.
just, "I said something and I don't mean it." It's, "You said something and you did mean it."
Yeah.
And Yeah, it's it's tough. It's tough because I think that there are people out there for both of them, but I think they need to really analyze what it is that not necessarily that they think they want, but that they need in a relationship, and that is going to work well for them. I think that people are going to fight and people are going to argue in serious relationships, but people should never in serious relationships have the goal of the fight or argument to be to hurt the other person,
Yeah.
and the goal be to and that if once you realize that what something you said did hurt the other person, your primary concern there should be, "Oh, I don't want to hurt them because I love and care about them. So if what I'm saying is hurting them or if they're feeling, that emotion from me, I need to figure out how to recommunicate what I'm saying if it's that important to me or to take back what I said and figure out how I, need
Right.
to need to rework these thoughts because um it's not a great sign for things to
Yeah.
come. So, yeah. The one other
So,
thing I wanted to
yeah.
mention about them was at the party.
Yeah, and they showed up separately. So that's not good.
Hard to tell what the timeline is. Like, did they have this fight earlier this morning and they have been separate and needed some time? Or is this to say
Mm,
this is days later and they're no longer living together and that's why they're coming separately? I don't know.
right. I don't know. Yeah, next episode obviously will be very telling about where they are, because I guess
Mhm.
they haven't really resolved after that fight.
Right.
But this man who had 5 too many drinks.
What the heck? Did he have 5 too many drinks before he got to the party?
Right.
Someone okay, to the person out there, I don't remember who it was, unless it was you, Adrian, maybe you said it. To the person out there who told me that they felt like Marshall might have a temper based on the way that he handled the Josh situation in the pods. I would like to say, if Josh was behaving like this, I think it's fine to be like, what is this man doing? How did he get invited to this party? This had to have been a producer plant for drama, right?
Right, because even
No one seems to like him. No one seems to wanna be friends with him.
the birthday girl was confused why he was there. If the birthday girl is confused, then it's definitely producer driven.
Well, look, we don't even know it was her birthday. Like,
It could have been months later,
we have
yeah.
seen it's always somebody's birthday on one of these shows. We know that they just have to have a reason to have a party. That's fine. I get it. You need to come up with some sort of fake reason. But what is this man doing here?
He was so annoying in every way. I think that from talking to Jackie, who clearly was not reciprocating the energy at first and was just kind of like, I was like, oh, okay, this seems okay. I think Jackie realizes she wouldn't have been into him either. I think he wasn't tall enough for her. She's used to 6'5". And so I was like, it's great that she didn't see Josh and was thinking, oh, dang, I made a mistake. But then him talking to Marshall, wait, all up in his face. You tweeted the perfect gif of Marshall after the fact, like, what the heck was that?
Yeah, I feel like I've had conversations with people where you're having a conversation and it's usually when they're very intoxicated. It's usually like a stranger at a bar, right? Someone comes up to you and they start talking to you. You're like, "Oh yeah, girl, yeah, like whatever." And then they turn around and leave and you're just like, "What in the world was that? Like what just happened? Like do I know this person? What in the world?" And that's how it felt with his reaction. And then he's like holding something and then the perfect like crunch that he does at the end. It's like, "What was that?"
He was like a little tornado just going through this party, trying to just wreck whoever he could talk to. And I I just feel like that conversation at the end with him and Jackie was she was giving him way too much time. Because I feel like first she was being appropriate in terms of not reciprocating the energy. But the longer they talked, the more she started to like ask him questions about things. And I was like, he is not in a position right now to give
But
you any coherent answer.
I felt like what I liked was that when she's like, "I'm surprised you're even talking about this because we didn't really have any kind of emotional conversations when we were in the pod," which we
Yeah.
didn't really we saw, like, one scene of them in the pods together.
Yeah.
We don't know much about him because I think that was the show trying to be like, "Oh, she has a choice," when really it was like, nah, it was like 90% Marshall, 10% Josh.
Yeah.
So I felt like she was more just like, like, just genuinely it did not feel like a Kwame Micah thing, like, it felt more like
Yeah.
like she was also confused by the direction of the conversation, but she was curious to know what on earth was going on. It was very funny. The episode is called Pick Me, and he says, I want you to pick me. You're giving her no reason to, though. You're
Right.
being a hot mess. All he was saying was like, "Oh, yeah, like, if you like Marshall, then, like, yeah, do that, but, like, I don't think if you have questions, you should pick me." I'm like, "What?
He's like,
Ex
if you're gonna
what?
marry a person, you're gonna marry a person. That's it. He's just
He was
talking to
saying
talk. There was no
saying words.
substance.
Nothing made sense. He was saying words. It was odd. It was yeah,
He's like, I'm
anyway.
trying to know Shorty for life.
What are you saying? I feel like everything he says, I'd like put it on a cross stitch and then
Oh, my gosh. Okay. I don't know for y'all that watch out there with captions. The captions in this batch were a little fuzzy because I always watch with captions or, closed captions. And this one, there were two moments. One with Micah. No, yeah, Micah, where she was talking about the fact that Bliss and Zach were together. She was like, well, I wish them luck. And then she said, he's going to need it.
yes.
But the caption said, delete it.
Yes, I saw that too. I was
I
gonna
was
write that
like,
down. I was
what?
like, "What does that mean?" Because I'm like, I'm pretty sure she said he's gonna need it or they're gonna need it or whatever.
Yeah. And
And
it's
but I
so
was like,
funny.
"Delete it," and I was like, "Are they trying to say if?" Because the only I was like, "Did I mishear that?" The only way you would say delete it if you're like, "Oh, delete that scene." Like I didn't like how it
Yes.
sounded in that scene, but I was like, I was like, "Delete it."
Exactly. And it's so funny because like it happened. I was watching my mom and it happened. And I was like, what? She did not say delete it. And I rewound it. And we like just watched her and we realized she said like they're gonna need it or whatever. And my mom was like, that's so weird because I read delete it and I didn't even question it. She was like, I trusted that much that I just was like, oh, she said delete it. But the second time I noticed it was Josh talking to Jackie, and he calls Marshall NBA crybaby because there are a lot of rappers like NBA young boy or NBA whatever, and he said NBA crybaby, but they put MBA crybaby, which makes zero sense in like a pop culture reference. But I was
NBA
just like,
crybaby.
what is happening?
I like that.
Yeah, so
Oh
that
my
was
gosh.
funny because I was like, whoever watched this had a couple of mistakes. Um,
So other thoughts from other people throughout this episode. I want to shout out to everyone on Twitter who reached out to us. Ryan agrees with me, had the very similar thought of starting to like Micah for a quick second when she was talking with Irina, but then changing back to her when her friend was absolutely terrible. Changing
mhm.
back to not liking her. Let's see, a lot of people wondering why, Roy wondering why Kwame keeps disrespecting Chelsea by talking to Micah at her birthday party even. He was wearing
At
pink
her
though,
birthday
so
party.
do you think that she asked him to wear pink, or do you think he just did it?
No, I think she asked him because he didn't seem that happy about it and was like, "Yeah, I'm doing this only for you."
Let's see, Ange thinks that, Micah's friend is just Irina with blonde hair. Yep, you said that also.
Valid. Mhm.
Oh, Ange also asks, "Where are we ranking this season so far?" Um, I can tell you this is, I think, my second favorite season. I think season 1
Ooh,
will always
after
stand out to
one.
me, but I think that
Mhm.
this is my second favorite.
Ooh, that's a strong take. I can agree with that. Now that because I thought about it and I was just like, I don't know. Because I'm thinking like, okay, absolute worst season. Am I thinking 2 or 3?
I can't remember 2 because that's the one that nobody
Shane.
stayed together, right?
Yeah, that's
Shane
like
and
Shane,
Natalie.
DD.
Oh, right. Oh my gosh. I think 2 and 3, we lost the plot a little of what made Love Is Blind season 1 so great, which was it
Yes.
seemed like all of a sudden we were putting people on who had no desire to be married.
Yeah.
When you're casting someone like Bartise on this show, or maybe even Shane,
Yeah.
anyone from this show who has gone on to be on another reality TV show, it's like, "Okay,
Yeah.
were you here for the
Yeah,
marriage?"
true.
So, I think those 2 are a little even for me. I can't really remember which one I liked better, but I feel like this one, like, there are couples I have full faith in. There are people I
Mhm.
really like, and even the couples that I don't necessarily think the drama seems more grounded in are they compatible, and less about are they here for the wrong reasons, which I like.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, I can now say that this is number 2 behind season 1 solely and
Yay.
the main reasons would be Brett and Tiffany, Zach and Bliss, and then the entertainment of the rest.
Yes, I agree. Josh Green is ashamed to share the name with the guy who he forgot was on the show after this match.
Yes.
And let's see. Sandy asks, what do you think about Zach's explanation for how Bliss wasn't his second choice? I think that there was a lot of editing and there was probably much longer conversations that we're not seeing on that
Mhm.
because I think we have to do a lot of hypothesizing. I think all signs have pointed to it probably came from some insecurities for why he had picked Irina.
Yep, I think it's 100% insecurities.
Yeah. Yes. And then let's see, was there anything from Mel's thread? Thank you, Mel, for the entire thread. Let's see. Also, what is going on with my Twitter? I didn't even see that until you mentioned it. Like, I'm tagged. I feel like
Yeah.
I'm missing notifications. I'm like not getting. Come on, Elon Musk, fix Twitter so that I can at least get my notifications.
My favorite is Josh sucks, Shelby sucks. I insulted your fiance and he said he doesn't care what I think. Wow, he's not good for you. She's upset she's single and she wants to drag her best friend down
Yeah.
with her. I can see
Yeah.
why Micah was drawn to Irina. Very
Yes.
valid, Mel.
All of that is very valid.
Yeah.
Mel also loves Zach and Bliss.
Yes. Same. But yeah, with Bliss, I am so glad she gave him a second chance. Like, I'm so glad that she opened up her heart to give an opportunity to forgive him, because she had every right to be like, boy, bye. But she said, okay, let me give this a shot. And I'm so glad that she did.
Yeah. Yes. And then Mel also points out the thing about it not being unreasonable that a 31-year-old woman can't wait past 3 to 4 years to see what happens to start having kids if she wants kids.
It's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. She says that she's trying to keep score of who is compromising more for the relationship. And while I think that's important, I would also say if you really love someone, you're not going to care who's compromising more in the relationship.
Exactly.
I mean, it could be a factor, it can add tension, but and again, you shouldn't necessarily want to drop everything and change everything about your life for a person, but you also should not be nitpicking every little thing. Look, I dated someone once where we got to the point where we had a schedule written down of who washed dishes, and you put a little check next to it because we did not believe each other when we both felt like we both washed the dishes more. That's just the beginning of the end. If you start doing things like that in a relationship, like not a good sign that you're nitpicking who's washing dishes more.
Right.
So that I'll go ahead and take that strike on myself. Because we shouldn't have gotten to that point.
Well,
anyway,
we did it.
Yeah.
Anything else about all of these couples?
I've got people I'm rooting for. So okay, so now we can go back to our predictions. We're gonna reassess this after the second drop. So Micah and Paul, how are we feeling about them? We were both pretty down on them last time. I thought Paul would say yes, but everything else we said no.
I could switch to Paul saying yes.
Okay.
But I still think there's a chance Micah would say no.
Yeah. Man, I think that they're not a perfect comparison, obviously, but I could see this being similar to Colleen and oh my gosh, Matt. Thank you. Where we have a lot of doubts about them, but then they do end up getting engaged. So you know what? I'm gonna change my vote after this one. I'll say they'll both say yes. So yeah.
Wow.
So then I'll give you a maybe. You think maybe for Micah, but you think Paul is gonna still say no?
I think Paul will say Yes. And
Okay.
I think Micah is a maybe.
Okay. Cool. I'll give you that. Chelsea and Kwame. You had said that Chelsea was going to say yes before.
Hmm, I think unless she's given some validation, more validation, I think she's starting to see the light.
Yeah,
I think she's
I
given a
agree.
little bit more validation by the wedding day. She may say yes, but if she's continuing to get the Kwame that we're seeing right now, mm-mm.
I agree. Tiffany and Brett. Checks all around still? Still feeling good?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, great. Still feeling good on them. Jackie and Marshall. Mm,
Ooh. Did I say
I,
Marshall? Yes. Jackie,
you said
no.
Marshall, yes. You know what? I'm changing my mind. I think I had said both of them, yes. I think they're both gonna say no. This is,
Ooh, I
I
don't
don't know.
know about him. I still think he's keeping hope alive, and we still only have one more episode. So,
Yeah, I don't know why I'm all of a sudden feeling very bad for all the reasons we talked about.
hmm
All right, we're still feeling like Micah and Kwame, not a thing. Never gonna happen. I mean, obviously they're not gonna like get together
No, I
and
think if they
live in a
don't end up
volunteer.
with their spouses, there's not a complete chance that by the reunion we explored what was going to happen,
Yeah,
but
I think that there is a 0% chance that even by the reunion that they're like, "Oh, we're together now." Like, no,
yeah,
I
I
I
think
think
they
that
will
maybe they
definitely
talked, right?
yeah, they'll it's like a Shane.
Yes. Bliss and Zach, we both gave full on checks that they would at least start dating. Now I need actual alter checks on them for you.
Ooh, yes for both.
Yeah, I think so too. I really hope so. And Paul and Irina, never gonna be a thing.
Yeah.
You did write down that you thought we'd see Amber again, so you were technically right about that.
There we go.
But there was
But not in the way
nothing
I thought.
explored there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, interesting. So I, based on my predictions, I think we're getting 3 couples that are saying yes. I think Bliss and Zach, Tiffany and Brett, and Micah and Paul, and then you're a question mark on Micah and Paul.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think we're ever going to see a season of Love Is Blind where we get all 5 yeses?
No.
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
Not
All
with the
right.
popularity of Love is Blind. You're always going to get one person that sneaks in there just to be on the show.
Yes. Well, all right. Let's see. This only went on an hour longer than we thought it would, but
Yeah. We were like, we only have 3 episodes to discuss.
look, there's something about 2 very single women giving lots of love advice that just makes total sense. All right. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us here. Like we mentioned at the top of the show, if you want to subscribe to the feed, you can follow at robisawebsite.com/first sight feed and make sure to check out all of the other shows on there as well. You can also go to Rob has a podcast on YouTube to watch the video version of this. Check it out. Check out Asia's color swatches. Tell her which one she should paint her wall. Tell me if I look like Steve from Blue's Clues or not, and if I'm a style icon. Thank you. And tell us if we look like our voices sound. That was the
Right,
that was the main
please.
thing we wanted to know. All right, thanks. Asia, do you have anything else you want to let everyone know about?
Yeah, so y'all can follow me on Twitter and TikTok at Asia Like Asia. That's AYSHA like ASIA. Have recorded a few podcasts in the past week. So if you're watching Big Brother Canada, I was on the Big Brother Canada roundtable. Everything we discussed was irrelevant, but we had a fun time. So go check that out. I also joined the Top Chef RHAP-Up to talk about season 20, episode 3. So I had a great time with LaTanya and Haley. And then I also jumped over to post show recaps to talk about You season 4. We discussed, we wrapped up LaTanya and Marissa's coverage that they did for all of season 4. And we just kind of gave our predictions about season 5. Now it's been renewed. It just gave all of our thoughts about Joe. So definitely go check it out. I really had a fun time because I hadn't gotten an opportunity to talk about You on a podcast yet. So I got all of my thoughts out. Then, of course, every week I'm talking about this lovely show called Married at First Sight with my co-host Jason Reed over on our podcast called A Perfect Match. We just released episode 13 of season 16. So we only have probably about 10 more episodes left of this season. So come join us. You don't have to even watch the show, but to enjoy the podcast, we break everything down. If you love Love is Blind, you would love Married at First Sight. As I said, Kwame was almost on Married at First Sight. So hey, they're pulling from a similar pool of people. Okay. So definitely you could catch my coverage of Married at First Sight over on the Love at First Sight feed where you got this podcast. Mary, where can people keep up with you?
You can follow me everywhere at Frail Mary. Mostly I post updates on Twitter for podcasts. I'm not great with keeping up with my Instagram, but if you'd like to look at pictures of me running, that's what's on Instagram. I am going to be talking some Big Brother Canada this week on Rob's podcast. So pretty sure that's going to be on Wednesday. I think that'll be the episode that I'm covering. So if you're interested in hearing that, you can check out that there.
I'm talking about it on Tuesday. I forgot. I'll be on the Tuesday recap.
Nice. I thought you were going to say Wednesday. I got excited, but
I know.
no. Okay. And also, big announcement. Riverdale's final season is back. Despite my pretending that I was not excited about it, I'm extremely excited about it. And now that I watched the episode, I'm even more excited about it. So if you would like to follow my podcast, Kowski Cast, that is Cal with a K, you can go to kowskicast.com to find those episodes. We've already recorded, Kirsten and I already recorded the episode, but I still need to go through and edit it. So it'll be out by Sunday, April 2nd, but possibly today, April 1st, depending on when I get around to editing it.
So I may be 30 or I may be 31, depending on when it comes out.
Right. Ooh, yes, exactly. So that'll be exciting. And an announcement I'm going to say here, in case the Love is Blind Riverdale overlap is a lot. If for some reason you have followed and subscribed on Apple Podcasts or anywhere else to only my Riverdale feed or only my Twilight feed, you need to go subscribe to the main feed, the Kowski Cast feed, because the other two feeds will be disappearing based on some work I've done on the back end of the podcast. They may come back eventually, but do not rely on those right now. Rule of thumb, everything will get posted on Twitter when it comes out. So make sure you're checking there. If for some reason you're like, where is it? I don't have it. Yeah. Awesome. Great. Well, this was really fun. And when we get back, hopefully we'll have some weddings to talk about.
Fingers crossed. Oh my gosh.
At least a couple of successful ones, hopefully. All right. Until next time.